Ryman. Our director is Giancarlo Lenzi, and our camera sets are provided by Dougie Beard. We have a lot in store for you tonight, but we have to remember and remind our fans that you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter at GSR Channel. So if you have any questions or comments about the broadcast or want to stay in touch in the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. Airden, we don't have a lot of time left, but if you could run down the order for the grid, we'll get started here right away.
Certainly, in first place is Toby Butler, and then alongside him is Brian Barnes. And in third place, we've got Stephen Paulison, then Chris Beck, and then Jimmy Jones. In fifth place, Carl Burke on the outside of him. Kevin Knodel in seventh, Matthew Rogers in eighth, Gary Nichols in ninth, and then Tim Ryber in 10th.
Absolutely. We have a lot to look forward to today. 160 laps here at the Brickyard. This is going to be a very intense race now, and it looks like the pace car is actually already getting ready to pull off there. So we'll take a look at Toby Butler in the number 08 car. He is much faster than the field today, about almost 5/10 as the pace car goes in, and we're off. That Jimmy John's car takes the lead. Is everyone going to stay clear into turn one? It looks like we have two lines going in, nice and clean. Everyone giving each other a lot of space. They know it's a long ways to go. Must stay conservative here at the start of this race if they want to make it to the first set of pit stops. Sam, we didn't really get a chance to talk much about the beginning of this race. What are these guys looking forward to in the first couple of laps here?
Well, right now I think they just all want to get single file. The bottom line is certainly the best line around, and all 18 cars were able to get through the first turn cleanly. A couple of cars drifting up high towards the wall. You know, Brian, usually people think of Indianapolis, they think of the lightweight Indy cars. These NASCAR stock cars are very different races indeed. You see Mike Willett there drifting out towards the wall at the back of the pack. If you get off the racing line here, you really do have to blow up because these cars are big, these cars are heavy. This isn't the easiest track to get around in them. It's very easy to have an ill-handling car here. 875 horsepower, they're getting down to about 200 miles an hour on the straights. And I'll tell you what though, one driver, Toby Butler, may have been dominating in practice and qualifying, but Brian Barnes is keeping him in check early on here, Brian.
Yeah, and Toby Butler right now is leading the race, obviously, on lap 2. Not a lot going on there, but Brian Barnes looking on the outside, trying to take that lead. He gets a very good turn in. It looks like Toby's going to sit back and just let it happen. It's very early in this race. Sam, that was a pretty good move there early on in this race.
Yeah, and Toby Butler kind of led him by once he realised Brian got a run on him because of the fast speeds and how big these cars are. They really do punch a giant hole through the air as they go down these straights, as they go over 200 miles an hour. Let's see how fast Brian Barnes goes into this corner. He hit 205 at the end of that straight right there. So these cars really do punch in a hole in the air, so you see a lot of drafting battles, and really Toby just knew he had nothing. He couldn't hold Brian off. Brian had such a great run on him. He let Brian by. They went through the turn single file, which is how you want to take the turn here all the time. You really don't want to be going through these corners side by side, and Brian Barnes is in the lead.
And Aaron, we were just talking about how tricky this track is with the lack of groove and banking. Why don't you go down the track facts real quick and tell the fans what this track is like and what we can expect in the corners.
Yeah, well, Indianapolis is fairly unique compared to regular ovals. Instead of an actual oval, it's actually more like a rectangle. It has four 90-degree turns, so it's about 2.5 miles length, which translates to about 4 kilometers. And also, the turns only have 9 degrees of banking, so the track is fairly flat, kind of similar to a road course for some of these guys. So, also guys with road experience might have a small advantage. And we will be running 160 laps, so a long, enduring race for these guys.
Very long and enduring indeed. And I thought I saw Brian Barnes scrape the back of his car out of turn 1, just on the outside in the wall there. Doesn't look like he's been slowed down too much, but Toby Butler does have a little bit of a run thanks to that draft, and as we see them going through 3 and 4, a very technical track as we saw Airden pointing out. Now it looks like Chris Beck's starting to settle in, and he's just a little ways back from Toby Butler, who's sitting currently in second place in that 08 Jimmy John's car. He's starting to catch up a little bit, and then right behind them we have Stephen Paulison and Jimmy Jones. So Sam, right now, like you said earlier on, we're nice and single filed. Everyone's got their spacing. We're looking like we're going to sit in here for the long haul.
Yeah, and that's the advantage of having just an 18-car field. It may not look too much impressive to the fans, but it means that the drivers were able to get single file and find their spacing pretty quickly. And sorry if my microphone has been having issues at the start of this race. I think I got fixed now. But yeah, I think Toby's just playing the game of patience here, Ryan. He knows he was faster than Barnes in practice and qualifying, and he knows he's got the pace to match him right now, but he also knows he's got 155 laps left, so he's not going to burn off his tyres this early. He'll probably wait a little bit before he pounces and makes a move, if he can, and honestly I'm pretty sure that he can.
And we're riding on board with the 58, or excuse me, the 42 of Jimmy Jones. He just made a really good pass on the 58 of Stephen Paulson, but it looks like he may have hit the wall just a little bit coming out of turn 4. We'll have to keep an eye on him to see if he has any damage to that suspension. We'll definitely show if he does. Going through turn 1, it'll look like a washing machine rolling down a hill. These cars do not turn easy as it is with the lack of downforce and the overall weight of the car. So, you know, any little scrapes and dings to the aero package on these things will definitely hurt them in the long run, Sam. Maybe you can give a little bit of experience from your oval racing days, what it's like to race around here.
Yeah, well, to your first point, these drivers do get 2 free repairs, so you can damage your car twice, and damage could be scraping the wall, or it could be totaling your car, or anywhere in between, and you will be able to come to a pit road and get repaired. Obviously you'll lose time and track positions, it's still not the desirable thing to do, but you can get away with that twice. So there is that to it, but like I say, this is a very aerodynamic based track. You really don't want to get your car scraped up too bad, as Gary Nichols actually gets close to the wall, exit in turn 1. Matthew Rogers there attempting to pass on him for 8th place. But to your point, what it's like to race here, I think it is a bit of a rhythm track. You know, you do have to brake, you do have to hit your marks, and it can be hard to do at first, and you know, if you begin to not pay attention, you could end up making a mistake. But meanwhile, it looks like Toby Butler's actually closing in on Brian Barnes a little bit. He's going defensive, Brian Barnes backs off, Toby Butler is going to go into the lead.
Toby Butler putting down a little bit of force there early on the race. We're only on lap 8, but he made a very clean pass, and that just kind of shows you what we can expect out of Toby Butler today. In qualifying and practice, he was a good deal faster than the rest of the field. Now, as we see also Chris Beck in the 34 car taking 2nd place. It does look like 42 of Jimmy Jones is also falling back a little bit, so these guys are getting scattered. But back to my point about Toby Butler, looking very fast today. Obviously, he's doing something right in the setup or the practice department, because his team's definitely looking good in that Jimmy John's car. Right at the last moment, we got a clock at him about 1 second ahead of the field, so his pace is definitely setting the standard today, Sam, for the race.
Yeah, and Brian Barnes disappeared. As soon as he lost the lead, it looks like he lost the connection there, Ton.
Yeah, it looks like it, and that's the downside of internet racing. He might have had an internet issue and just won't be able to connect, and it should show up on the chat fairly soon if he did lose connection, and he can hopefully reconnect and maybe get back into the race, but he'll be several laps down.
Yeah, I'm looking at Brian Barnes right now. He's in 18th place, 1 lap down, but not to fret. If a yellow flag comes out, he could still get the wave around and make some of that laps up as the race goes on. But right now, 9 laps in, we haven't even had a little bit of a hint of a yellow flag. So Brian Barnes really needs to get that connection straightened out if he wants a chance to get back in this one. And there we go right now, Brian Barnes officially out of the race temporarily for a internet issue, Sam, or excuse me, Airden. Tell us a little bit about what blinking out is and these internet racing factors that can spoil your day.
Well, if someone's internet connection is just slightly bit unstable, they can their car can blink in and out, and we are actually seeing it as an example. Gary Nichols is having some issues right now, and that can obviously be a problem for other drivers around him, because it can be unclear where he is on the track. So definitely can cause some dangers, and hopefully guys can sort out their issues.
Gary Nichols in that white car, currently sitting in 9th place. The number 8 car from the Northwest Majors Club. He's been around in a lot of these events, so obviously this league here has a good following and fan base. Always fun to cover them. They do both roads and ovals, so these guys have a little bit of talent on both sides of the spectrum of racing, and of course they're liking to have fun and throw down some laps today. We're on lap 10 currently. Toby Butler is in the lead. 1 second behind is Chris Beck, and then of course down the field we have Jimmy Jones, Carl Burke, and in 5th place Stephen Paulson. 6th is Kevin Kernoble. And 7th we have Matthew Rogers. 8th we have William Fletcher. 9th Gary Nichols. And 10th we have Matt Gelder, Sam. So right now everyone's still getting in that groove. It looks like there's not a whole lot of drama on the track right now as we're watching Carl Burke shoot down that back straight into, I believe, turn 3. Excuse me, my camera's a little bit fumbled there, but Sam, good race so far.
Yeah, Carl Burke actually got pretty close to the wall, exiting turn 1 right there, but this 4th position is a new position for him. He passed Steve Paulison a little while ago. Steve Paulison basically let him have a position, and really from about 4th back to 8th, we do have a pretty good pack going on right now. But meanwhile, let's get the cameras down pit road. The number 4 car of Brian Barnes is back in the race. He's rejoining the circuit, but he is 3 laps down, so he is going to have to hope for a few cautions, and as we mentioned prior, it doesn't look like that's going to happen. And I'll tell you what, he's got to hope that he gets a good exit out of turn 2 right here on the apron, because you can see in the background Toby Butler's coming up. Brian Barnes may end up going 4 laps down, and that's certainly not what he wants.
Yeah, they always say that in ovals, every lap counts, and of course being 4 laps down is no easy feat to make up. However, with the way the Lucky Dog wave rounds work on iRacing, it is doable. I've done it myself a few times, coming from as far as 12 laps back and having a good finish. So, you know, it is doable in virtual racing. So don't count Brian Barnes out. He's very quick, and he definitely has the skill to get it done today. But let's look at this train now behind Jimmy Jones here. For 3rd place, we have Carl Burke, Paulison, a few other cars joining the mix. But it looks like a nice little conga line coming into turn 1 as we see this blue car diving down the outside.
Yeah, Kevin Knodel making some aggressive moves early on, but he also went a little too deep into the corner, which is the result just showing the challenges of this track. Try to make an aggressive move and end up losing a position in the process, maybe another one as well, as he has pressure from William Fletcher.
Yeah, William Fletcher in that 28 car is definitely looking pretty good today. All these guys are just enjoying the draft, and it looks like that 14 car just behind Kevin is starting to get a little unsettled, so maybe he's running out of some patience. It is still early, as we said, lap 13 of 160. It would be a shame to see a yellow come out at this point in the race, because everyone's kind of getting into a rhythm now, and as Sam pointed out, that rhythm will make or break your race. You know, you gotta keep in mind, it's not just about getting those positions. You have to save your tires, you have to conserve fuel in every way you can, and any extra exertion on the car scrubs off your speed and burns your fuel. So Sam, these guys have to consider more than just passing cars in front of them. They have to think for the long haul, or as others would say, the big picture.
Yeah, meanwhile, let's give a shout out to Carl Burke, because every time we bring the camera back here, he is another position higher. He started 6th, he is now up to 3rd. Meanwhile, battle going on for 5th. Kevin Knodel, making up from that mistake he made earlier, takes 5th place from Stephen Paulison, and that's William Fletcher in the Texaco coloured Davey Allison tribute paint scheme back there. The number 28 car, followed by Matthew Rogers. So yeah, this is certainly where the action is going on right now. But by the way, Andrew Marienthal is currently running 17th, last car on the lead lap. He's got a lot of oh, and there's actually Gary Nichols has just had a crash from 9th place. It hasn't bore the caution out, but he is bringing a very battered car down pit road, and he may have crashed with Brian Mostella. Brian Mostella, the number 1 car, also has a lot of damage on his car.
Well, we're going to go to replay and see what happened, but we're keeping an eye on Gary Nichols, who has a lot of damage coming out of that back with smoke and a banged up fender. Right now we're watching him right now coming through turn 4, it looks like, onto the back straight, and he just went a little wide. He was a little hot, and he clipped that outside wall. He shot across to the inside just in front of the pit lane, was able to collect the car before the rest of that train came through, and went down pit road. Just behind him we see a Bass Pro Shop car coming in. I don't know if that was related from the damage. I do think he did actually get hit by Gary Nichols, but it's hard to say from the angle that we had. But that is definitely a game changer now, as now Brian Barnes gets a chance to make up one of those laps, and everyone, will get a chance later on to make up those laps and get back to racing. So it was a good move overall by Gary Nichols, though, to keep it off that off that outside wall once again, making it down pit road from keeping that yellow out, so that race keeps going there, Sam.
Yeah, meanwhile, we got a fascinating battle for 5th going on still, with Stephen Paulison, William Fletcher, Jimmy Jones. Jimmy Jones, it seems like, has been causing a lot of this. He was 3rd, he's now pretty much fallen down to 7th or 8th. I don't know if he's burnt off his tires, but he's struggling out there. And it almost clipped the wall there.
Yeah, just got passed by Matthew Rogers right there, and trying to look to get a crossover again, getting good exit. It looks like he's going to be able to actually, no, he gets a worse exit than Matthew Rogers. But like you said with the tires, that's something that these guys have to worry about. Some of them might have that qualifying speed to be able to get those hot laps early on. But then if their setup isn't working for the long run, then they can really lose out on these green flag stints.
Absolutely, and Jimmy Jones does look like he is kind of sluggish right now. I'm with you there, Sam. I think he might be overusing his tires. He started out very fast and just keeping up with the front part of the pack, and then he started falling off almost suddenly. We are about 17 laps in, so I would guess that on a track like this, the tires won't last as long due to the lack of banking and the drafting effect, taking all that speed and momentum into these corners. I would place it around somewhere about 30 laps maximum for these tires. Sam, so it's going to be interesting to see if these guys come in for fuel first or tires first.
Well, they'll probably come in for fuel between about lap 35 and lap 40, we're thinking. Meanwhile, Brian Marstella has retired from the race. But the fastest car on the track right now is Brian Barnes, who is currently running 3 laps down. I've got to begin wondering, Ayrton, if Toby Butler was only fastest in practice and qualifying because he had a good qualifying setup. It looks like Brian Barnes is actually faster when it comes to the race.
Yeah, that could be a possibility. He was, once he got ahead of Toby Butler at the start of the race, he started to pull a gap already, so he's definitely showing some race pace, and that can come into play if he can possibly get back on the lead lap, but that's going to take almost 3 cautions, so it's going to be quite a task.
Yes, indeed, and you know, 3 laps is a mouthful there, but he is automatically going to move up to 16th place at this rate because Brian Marsteller has retired from the race. That's going to give him 1. That'll be 17th place. And Gary Nichols, I've been kind of watching him. After that accident, he had a little bit of trouble getting down pit road. I mean, he had that quick fix that he used. However, he got some bad timing. I'm just wondering if he might have been a little bit rattled there after the accident, trying to think about how to get his car back up to speed and not get in the way of the other racers, but also how to make all that time up. So we'll have to keep an eye on both Gary Nichols and Brian Barnes, both at least 1 or more laps down early on in this race, but both definitely capable of making that time up.
Meanwhile, Carl Burke is the latest driver to burn off his tyres. He had run away with 3rd, and now he is losing it very quickly. Steve Paulison goes by for 3rd. William Fletcher goes by for 4th. Kevin Canoodle is now going to run him down for 5th. He was blinking a little bit there. Maybe he's worried about his internet connection, but for whatever reason, Carl Burke has just lost 2 positions on 1 straight.
Yeah, definitely something we should look at. We're on board with Carl Burke right now coming through turn 2. And you can just see these cars in front of him pulling away. He's definitely in trouble. I'm not sure exactly where he might have picked up damage or if he, how bad he used those tires. We've been kind of all over the place in this race, so it's hard to stick to one driver, of course, Sam. But it definitely appears that he is running on some overly cooked tires and might be over pushing that car early on in this race.
It could be, but he's been able to hold on in front of Kevin Canoodle and Matthew Rogers right now. But so this will give Steve Paulison and William Fletcher time to see if they can run away. I've got to go back and do some research here. Where did William Fletcher start? He started 11th, and he's made his way up to 4th. So that number 28 Davey Allison car is having a really good race today.
Absolutely, and I just saw a good pass out of the number 14 of Matthew Rogers. He just kind of went down and led his way into turn 1, jumped on the inside and rode it all the way around. So definitely, I'm thinking the guys that are back here early on in the race are actually to be the ones in a better suited to make up that time later on before the pit window, because they're going to still have those tires left, as we pointed out so many times. But you know, that 14 car, he's sitting a little ways back, but he's definitely got a good line, and he's just going for another pass right now even, just making it look easy out there.
Yeah, Carl Burke looking to be really struggling as he loses another 2 positions in just 1 corner. So in 2 laps, he loses 4 positions. Really struggling at the moment.
Sam, did you see anything that might have slowed Carl Burke down earlier in the race? I might have missed something there.
No, I didn't, but he's getting on driver chat right now, almost talking as if he's going to make a pit stop at the end of his lap. It's certainly not the fuel window. We'll have to wait and see if he comes down. If he does, that's really going to throw off his strategy, I would imagine.
Yep, and right now we got Andrew Marienthal, down 1 lap, Gary Nichols down a lap, Brian Barnes is down 3 laps, and Brian Arsteller is retired from the race, so he might be another driver soon to be on that list of lap down cars that are just having a little bit of struggles here by lap 22. Now Toby Butler is starting to run away from this pack. He's 4.2 seconds ahead, and then the next car after that is 14 seconds from the lead car. So Toby Butler definitely doing something right now at the moment, Ayrton.
Yeah, Chris Beck is showing some pace, but definitely 4 seconds back is Toby Butler really showing some pace and proving that it wasn't just hot lap pace for his qualifying and practice results, that he actually has some race pace as well. I'm impressed with Chris Beck as well. He's still a good 10 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack that's all fighting for 3rd place.
Gary Nichols has lost the connection, and I don't know what happened to Mike Willett, the league organizer, but he's got damage on his Amp Energy Chevrolet, and he is bringing that orange car down pit road.
Maybe we can dig out a replay later on, but right now, yeah, Mike Willett definitely coming down pit road. It's not seeing too much damage on his car, maybe a dented fender, but overall that might be something to do with suspension, or maybe he's just ready. From this angle now, we're looking at a lot of paint actually peeled off the right side of his car, so he definitely scraped the wall somewhere.
There's a caution on the speedway, and I have no idea why. It's Carl Burke. So whatever was wrong with his car, it finally, it almost looks as if, and maybe we'll get a replay here, I think he was coming to pit road and then got on the brakes too much rear brake, and it spun him, and that brought the caution out.
Yeah, we're looking at a replay right now. We're looking at Carl Burke coming through turns 3 and 4. We'll see exactly what happened here in a second, as it looks like he's coming down pit road, getting hard on the brakes, and then all of a sudden his car just snaps out. His brake bias definitely wasn't set for that kind of entry, and he knocks that cone aside, spins the car around, and then tries to get down pit road again. And then all of a sudden is facing the wrong way once again and completely decides to miss pit road. So not only did he spin his car out and lost a lot of positions, he did a 180 and missed pit road altogether, and now we'll have to come around before he get back in the pits.
I wonder if he might get a penalty for that. He did hit the cone, so it might be an unsafe pit exit, but I don't know if that would have counted as entering pits.
Yeah, definitely hard to say, but we do have a safety car period now, Sam, so this would be probably a good time to take a break. We'll come back after the round of pit stops. We'll figure out where everyone is sitting and come back with some green flag racing. Hello and welcome back to the GSRC broadcast of the Northwest Majors Brickyard 400. We are currently sitting down here under yellow, about to go green. I just want to remind our fans that they can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter at GSR Channel. So if you have any questions or comments, again, you can get in touch with us and ask us questions and comment on the race today. Let's go over to Aridin while we still have a little bit of time and see how the field started up or stacked up right now.
Yeah, well, Toby Butler's going to be leading them away once again with Chris Beck alongside him this time, and then Stephen Paulson in third, William Fletcher in fourth, and Matthew Rogers sitting in fifth.
Yes, and right now we have in sixth, actually we'll come back to the race now as the pace car is just peeled off. Toby Butler has control of the field right now. The 34 of Chris Beck's on the outside. It should be a good launch here right now as we see that Jimmy John's car approaching the start-finish line. And he's starting to come up to speed now, so here we go. Back to racing. Cars going too wide. Everybody's looking nice and clean. The 14's bunched right up there in the back. That is Matthew Rogers against Stephen Paulson. Everyone looks nice and clean through turn one. The 08 of Toby Butler got a huge jump, but right behind him, Chris Beck is giving him a good push, Sam. It looks like we're going back to another long haul stint as everyone's already started to spread out. Cars going everywhere, but nice and clean indeed.
Yeah, Chris Beck was several tenths slower a lap than Toby Butler under the initial green flag run, so I wouldn't put money on him to challenge, at least yet not in this stage of the race. Meanwhile, Carl Burke, who brought out the caution, restarted 12th. He is making moves. I think he is already up into 9th place, so Carl Burke really trying to make a comeback back there in his number 53 machine.
Absolutely, and Carl Berg has been very impressive today overall. I think he's probably moved and passed the most cars out of everybody on the field. William Fletcher right now is about 8 tenths back. He has a good start indeed this time. Everyone is on fresh tires and fuel now, so there's no reason why we can't have a nice long train of cars as we see that 14 to Matthew Rogers jumping on the inside to try and make up some positions into turn 3. And right now, it just looks like Toby Butler starting to settle in. Chris Beck right on his bumper still, enjoying that draft, getting the fuel mileage right behind him. William Fletcher in that 28 Havoline car. Classic paint job in the NASCAR scene. I don't think anybody that watches oval racing has ever seen something like that before. And then Matthew Rogers moving up. Very good in this field. He's quite a ways back from the next set of cars, but he's showing a lot of pace right now, being very consistent each lap through. So right now, everyone's looking pretty good, Aridin, and we're back to green flag racing.
Yeah, Matthew Rogers having a very good start, and with the speed of this track, definitely keeping in the draft is going to be an important thing for these guys. They're going to want to keep on the guy in front of them, like Chris Beck. He's right behind Toby Butler. If he can keep that draft, he'll be able to hopefully keep on and maybe make a pass later as well. Same with William Fletcher, if he can keep on to the top 2 as well.
Yeah, and Chris Beck right now, we're watching him trying to make a move on Toby Butler. It looks like he's trying to set him up in every corner, but every turn here is very difficult. They're low banking, so you don't get a lot of grip, but on top of that, this track is all about timing. It's all about getting off the gas and getting the smoothest run through without scrubbing off the most speed, and it's all about timing, like I just said. Just like in the Indy 500 even. You know, NASCARs have been known to take a lot of abuse and can go door to door and bang around, but that's definitely not the way to make it done today. If you want to win this race, you got to keep that car clean, keep those aero packages nice and stable, and then that's going to get you the most mileage out of the day. So, Sam, right now, what are you looking at?
I'm looking at the drivers in second and third. They're both impressing me right now. Chris Beck, I did not think he would be able to stay with Toby Butler like he has since his restart. And William Fletcher started outside the top 10 and has proven today that he's got really good race pace, currently running in third. So those are 2 drivers I'm keeping an eye on because although we said Brian Barnes really was Toby Butler's biggest challenger, Brian Barnes currently sits 2 laps down. He was able to get a wave around under last caution, so he's hoping for another quick caution here. But Chris Beck showing that Toby can't just run away with it. He's got to keep an eye out in his rearview mirror for that green machine as well.
Toby Butler right now got 2 tenths over Chris Beck, but this line goes all the way back to 14th and 15th place, which is 11 seconds back. So you can see the variance in skill and driver ability here. As everyone is spread out a long ways from front to back. But that does not mean there's not some good action on the track, as we've been talking about. Toby Butler, Chris Beck going very hard at it, hopefully not using up those tires because William Fletcher is not far behind and looking very consistent. He hasn't made too many mistakes this whole race, sitting up there in the top 5. Right behind him in the 14 though, Matthew Rogers has definitely been gaining in and just reeling them in each lap. It seems like he's getting closer and closer to that third place car of William Fletcher. I'm guessing Matthew Rogers will be making a move on William Fletcher later on when tires start to wear, because right now it's all about just staying in line and trying not to scrub those tires off, Sam. So right now strategy coming into play early, or I wouldn't say early in the race, we're on lap 34 now, but strategy's definitely in play here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting as the race goes on to see what drivers do the best job of taking care of their tyres. We already saw earlier Carl Burke was certainly one who was struggling with that. And like I say, these drivers in 2nd, 3rd and 4th, Matthew Rogers in 4th, William Fletcher 3rd and Chris Beck in 2nd, we're going to have to wait and see, as Jimmy Jones in 9th place just got pancake the wall coming out of turn 4. Continues on though, but that's certainly going to affect the handling, I would imagine. And meanwhile, Brian Barnes, the driver who's 2 laps down, who has been quick all race, he is coming in the pits, so he can't go any further on fuel. He's got to come in, get his fuel topped off now, and hope that he comes out still only 2 laps down. But I don't think that's going to be the case, Brian. I think he's going to fall a 3rd lap down here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Brian Barnes is fighting as hard as he can, and you know, I just kind of looked back and took a sneak peek at that Jimmy Jones hit the wall, and that was a pretty hard hit. So unfortunately, that's going to slow him down a little bit. It doesn't look like much on the car itself, but you never know what's going on under the hood, especially with a hard hit like that, going well over 150 miles an hour in some of these areas of the track. So Aaron, Jimmy Jones might want to consider dialing it down a little bit.
Yeah, that'll definitely affect him quite a bit. Also, a driver that have been looking at for the past few laps is Mark Redeker in that number 59 car. He's sitting in 6th place. He actually started in 17th place for whatever reason. He didn't put in a qualifying lap, but he was also 3rd fastest in practice standing. So he definitely has some speed. I'm going to keep an eye on him to see if he can get up to the front.
Yeah, that 59 car, red, white, and black, looking very nice and fresh colors there. Always a good pick when I make my cars myself, Sam. Not to get off pace or track though. Toby Butler again taking the lead. Now it looks like Chris Beck has got him within 0.184 seconds of the lead. So Chris Beck's not giving up very easy here.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to do what Chris Beck does when he inevitably gets a run on Toby Butler here. Is he pushing it beyond his own personal limits, or does he think he has a car that could challenge for the lead? And we're not going to know until Chris gets a run on Toby. Will he back off and say, hey, I'm okay just following you for now, or will he attempt to make a pass for the lead? Meanwhile, Jimmy Jones all the way down in the apron in turn 2, not really sure what that's all about. Oh, he hit the wall coming out of turn 1 and had to go to the apron to save it. So Jimmy Jones just lost a couple of positions there.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at that myself. Very scary moment. Coming through turn 1, got very loose, snapped back across the road, hit that wall, and then he found his way down to the pit road exit, which is kind of its own little island of road down there. There's a stretch of grass in between that and the racing surface. Luckily, he had some good timing there, finding a place to go, or he would have been in even more trouble.
Yeah, and one driver you may have seen in the shop there getting by Jimmy Jones while that was going on is Brian Barnes. He has fallen the 3rd lap down, and really what he's going to want now, Ayrton, is the race to stay green so that everyone else has to come into the pit, and perhaps he could get back to just being 2 laps down.
Yeah, if everyone goes into pits and a caution comes out while he's in front of the leader, that's pretty much a free lap for him. So he can definitely hope for that. And then as well, if the caution comes out, he'll get a lucky dog. So double bonus for him. If he can just follow that strategy, it's going to be a lot of luck and hoping for cautions at the right time for Brian Barnes in order to get back onto the lead lap.
Yeah, Brian Barnes in that Titleist blue-yellow WD-40 car. And the number 4 definitely a good contender today. Still, as Sam mentioned, 3 laps down, looking for another yellow flag later on so he can make up a lap on the lucky dog. But as Sam was saying, now a green flag run would be very good for him, because if everyone pits and then a yellow comes out, he's just making up laps like it's easy. So again, Brian Barnes not necessarily in trouble in this race yet. We're only on lap 36, and it seems like everybody is settled in. So right now it's all about just saving those tires and the fuel for Brian and everyone else, as we see Brian come very close to that wall there if he wants to stay in this race. Now, Sam, one thing we haven't really talked a lot about here is exactly how these drafts really hurt you in a way, setting up these corners, because these corners you have to get down to such a low speed compared to the straights, but if you don't stay in the draft and optimize it, you don't really make any time up. So what's it like trying to make a pass here and have it actually stick?
Well, as you say, you do have to consider the fact that if you get a draft, you've got to slow down, you've got to be wary of other traffic. Now, two drivers who were not wary of each other a little bit ago were Andrew Marienthal, who has just been in to get repairs in his Budweiser number 20 car, and the car that you see that just passed him on track there, Ray Fournier, the number 26 car. Look at the nose of Ray Fournier's Ford Fusion. It's all squatted in. That's because a little bit ago, I don't know what happened to Andrew Marienthal on the front stretch, but he slowed up suddenly, and Ray Fournier ran right into the back of him. Andrew had to pit for repairs. Ray seems to be quite content to ride out there with that front end damage right now.
And Ayrton, and that's kind of a dangerous thing to play with, at least in the last build. It seems like even a small pebble hitting the front of your car causes your engine to eventually overheat and blow up. Right now, do you think Ray's playing with fire?
Yeah, it could be a little dangerous. I mean, especially if what we see on Super Speedway racing, if you sit behind the car for too long. Obviously, it might not happen too much here, since it's very difficult to stay on someone's bumper for the majority of the race, but his car can blow up fairly easy if he runs it too long. Also to note, with Andrew Marienthal, I think that might have already been his second quick repair, so he's going to really have to be careful for the rest of the race.
Yeah, I want to see if Ray does anything here. No, he's just going to let him go. Alright, I guess all's forgiven.
Yeah, you know, it's too early to have bad blood. Right now, as we see Ray kind of thinking about going down pit road, then deciding against it is now as he tucks behind that 20 of Andrew Fournier. Right now, I wonder if Ray has a little bit of a instance of seeing red there. So he just is kind of like an angry tiger shark or a bulldog with his nose bashed in there. Again, though, Ray Fournier definitely should save his car as long as possible. Right now, maybe a draft isn't the best thing for him if his engine may or may not overheat with that damage. Let's go look for another battle around the peg. It looks like Stefan Paulison and Mark Redeker are pretty close together. Let's see what's going on over there, Sam.
Yeah, really, they're the closest two cars on the track, and here goes Mark Redeker, and he has the inside line. That's a desired line, and really it's game over for Stefan Paulison at that point, unless he tries to counter-attack going down into turn 3. But really, this is the only battle on the track going on right now. Toby Butler, Chris Beck, William Fletcher and Matthew Rogers, the top 4 are kind of spread out. Then we got Mark Redeker just got by Stefan Paulison for 5th and 6th. Carl Burke is in 7th, Matt Gelder is in 8th, Kevin Canodal is in 9th, and Jimmy Jones still holding out in 10th despite his issues today.
Yeah, and Jared Morgan, we haven't really talked about him too much. He is currently sitting in 11th place. Tim Reiber, again, another name we haven't mentioned a whole lot, sitting in 12th. Ray Fournier is in 13th, Mike Willett trying to get it done. He's in 14th, and Andrew Marienthal is the first car that is 2 laps down. Not really a contender right now, as we see Stefan Paulison getting really far into it with Mark Redeker. This has been a very good battle so far. Is he going to make it through? He just barely misses the wall on that outside. Man, these guys are definitely going at it with no regard to those tires. Ayrton, so, you know, it's very interesting to see right now. We got Brian Barnes kind of coming up the field and passing cars. Hopefully not getting in the way. It looks like he's been very careful about who he wants to battle with and get around, but he's trying to make up that time the best he can. You know, that can be very frustrating to the guys on the lead lap.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's fine in passing people as he doesn't interfere with any battles, such as the battle with Paulison and Redeker in front of him. If he gets between those guys, that might cause a few issues, so he might just wisely sit back behind and watch it. And honestly, he doesn't have too much to gain, because he's not going to be able to catch up to Toby Butler in the lead anytime soon, so it doesn't really benefit him that much unless he can get ahead of Andrew Marienthal.
Yeah, and right now I'm thinking if I'm Brian Barnes, I'm almost kind of happy where I'm at because you're just close enough to the guys in front of you to be saving fuel with the draft, and you're also not fighting that hard to waste your tires when you do start passing people. So right now, I think Brian Barnes is actually in a pretty good spot given his disposition. A couple laps down. So again, Brian Barnes earlier in the race was racing pretty hard for the lead, then all of a sudden his internet went out. He was battling very hard to get back towards the lead lap, but just didn't have the luck, and then a yellow flag comes out, everybody pits, everything gets scattered later on, and next thing you know, he's down 3 laps again. So Brian Barnes, the luck hasn't gone his way, but he's looking very good, and he's being conservative, Sam, definitely trying to make those laps up.
Yeah, and right now he is Mike Willette's biggest fan. Mike Willette currently the last car on the lead lap, and he's got the hope that he stays on the lead lap. Meanwhile, there's been a pass for third. Matthew Rogers just went by William Fletcher, and William Fletcher must have had a horrible exit out of turn 2, because he is getting freight trained right now. Into 4th place goes Stephen Paulison. Fletcher tries to counter-attack, and that's actually going to hurt him a little bit more, because there goes the aforementioned Brian Barnes also going by Fletcher. So William Fletcher having a very bad lap 46.
Yeah, and it looks like the bleeding has to stop. William Fletcher dropped like a stone going through turns 3 and 4. He'll have to get it back together if he wants to try to make it up, but I'm starting to guess maybe he's the next driver subscribing to the Burnt Tire magazine, because he is definitely hurting right now. It looks like Matthew Rogers is now under attack as well, because it looks like Paulison and Fletcher are, yeah, they're both starting to gain back on them again. That can't be right. That's Brian Barnes right behind him, excuse me. And the number 4 car playing with my head a little bit as everyone got stacked up coming out of turn 2. Brian Barnes looking on the outside now as he's trying to pass both cars, and then it looks like Paulison just shot out there on the inside trying to block a little bit. Doesn't want Brian Barnes to go through. Matthew Rogers on the top side. Barnes has nowhere to go. We have 2 cars on the lead lap battling for position, and Brian Barnes is trying to find a hole that's not there as they come out of turn 4. It looks like Brian Barnes is going to be on the inside. It is the position, but Stephen Paulison on the radio is definitely not happy about that move, and now has something to say about it.
Yeah, well, Steve Paulison's actually the one who's benefited from that. Matthew Rogers falling back now into the clutches of William Fletcher, Mark Redeker, and Carl Burke. But I'll tell you what, well, why not if you're Brian Barnes? Because if he can get by Stephen Paulison, there's only 2 cars in between him and getting another lap back. Now, granted, they're a fair ways up the track, but still, it's worth fighting for, because we have only over 100 laps to go. Anything can happen.
Yeah, and Sam, it's a good thing you just mentioned there. Say, for example, a yellow flag were to come out right now, and he wasn't a lucky dog because he was involved in a wreck. Well, those 2 cars in front of him are probably going to pit at this point because it's been so long on green. So that right there is a waiver round. That's only 2 cars that he has to worry about going in the pits before the pace car lets him by. But say he wasn't involved in a wreck, and those 2 guys go in, he still gets the waiver round. So either way, he's in a good place to get a benefit there and get one of those laps back.
Yeah, I'm just going back and looking at a clip here on the exit of turn 4. Jimmy Jones got hard into the turn 4 wall again, so he's certainly not become friends with that. But yeah, to talk, Ayrton briefly mentioned on this earlier, Andrew Marienthal is currently in the lucky dog position. So actually, Brian Barnes may not be racing Toby Butler as much as he may be racing Andrew. But currently Andrew's half a lap in front of him, so it's a race that's...
As Andrew just hits the wall, he's actually going to go a lap down.
It's going to be more than a lap down because that is a very hard hit. He got very loose, Sam, just as you were talking about him, and his engine was completely obliterated, causing those front tires to lock up and take him down to the inside wall off the racing surface. And man, he hit hard. You can see all the smoke now. We're gonna go back to replay now and see what happened exactly to initiate that slide. It might have just been his tires, but we're gonna see right here, just coming out of the turn, got on the gas maybe a little bit too hard on the gas, overcorrected, and that's what started it all. We see him sliding all over the place, bouncing off the walls, and then eventually his engine gave up on him. That's why we see all that dark smoke. Right now he's coming down to turn 3 and 4 service lane. It doesn't look like though we got a yellow flag unless someone can correct me on that.
No, we didn't, but his engine just blew, so he's had to take a tow to the pits after all. Ray Fournier pit him with that front end damage. And green flag scheduled stops for the cars who pitted under the first caution should be starting in about 5 laps soon. But yeah, the biggest winner right now is Brian Barnes, because now he will be in the lucky dog position if caution comes out, as long as Mike Willett stays on the lead lap. And currently Mike Willett has a quarter of a lap over Toby Butler, so I'm sure Brian Barnes is hoping for a caution in the near future.
Well, it's definitely safe to say that Brian Barnes is now our biggest fan, because we were talking about his nemesis there and something bad happened to him. So thank you, and you're welcome, Brian, for that little bit of help you got there. Now it looks like Toby Butler is still putting down the pace. He is currently 1.6 seconds over Chris Beck, who's sitting in second place. Stephen Polliston's almost 10 seconds back. Carl Burke's a little ways back from them even, and then the rest follows about a second from each other. So right now, the top 5, Toby Butler in that 08 car sitting in the lead. Jimmy John's Freaky Fast on the racing surface. In second place, we have that 34 Chris Beck. Third place, we have the 58 of Stephen Polliston. Fourth, we have the 53 of Carl Burke. And fifth, we have the number 14 of Matthew Rogers. In sixth, we have the 59 of Mark Redeker. Seventh, the 69 of Kevin Knodel. Eighth, we have William Fletcher. He's still suffering from that drop he had in positions earlier on. Ninth, we have Matt Gelder. And in 10th, we have Tim Reiber. So that's your top 10 here in this race. Here on lap 49, about to go into lap 50. You know, it's been a very good race so far. I've been very impressed with the level of driving and the lack of cautions. These guys are definitely keeping it in check. And just as I say that, Jimmy Johnson loses his internet connection and looks like he's going to suffer even more. Excuse me, Jimmy Jones. I'm getting all my names mixed up here with all the Jimmys. He's gone down a few laps as well, Sam. So right now, it looks like the internet's been the biggest nemesis for these drivers today.
Yeah, it's a big track, so that can sometimes happen when it's a big track. Meanwhile, we've had a pretty good train going from 4th to 7th, and green flag pit stops have begun. Jared Morgan has brought his number 095 car down pit road from 11th position, so he'll get serviced and get back out on the track momentarily. Meanwhile, we haven't talked a lot about the leaders very recently. Toby Butler has pulled out 2 seconds on Chris Beck, so Chris was doing a very good job at hanging with Toby Butler initially, but now he has fallen back a little bit.
Yeah, these tires are definitely getting overly hot. As I was just looking at Matthew Rogers coming through turns 3 and 4, lost a little bit of time and positions, and now the 59, or excuse me, the 69, I think that is, going to pass him as well. So it looks like everybody's starting to run out of tires. I'm seeing cars kind of spin me around in the corners. I'm guessing you're right, Sam. Those green flag window has definitely been open, and it's probably going to be shut pretty quick because these guys are falling off fast.
In comes Carl Burke, in comes William Fletcher. How did William Fletcher lose that much time, or is he just coming out of his pits?
Well, from what I remember earlier on in the race, he dropped about 5 or 6 positions, so that was part of it. I think he just kind of got stuck into a groove for a long time, and he might as well may have taken his pick already, so that's definitely going to hurt him as far as overall pace goes.
Yeah, no, William Fletcher was having such a great race early, and like you say, he began to fall back. I have a feeling something else happened though, because he has really fallen far back of Carl Burke, who is already exiting over on turn 2, and William Fletcher is only just leaving the pits. So, meanwhile, I mentioned earlier that all these pit stops going on would be helping Brian Barnes. It's not the case, because of course now these cars that are pitting are all falling the lap down. If a caution came out right now, one of the cars that is leaving pit road would become your lucky dog.
Absolutely, and on top of that, Brian Barnes has put a lot of time in the car he has now, so he's at a little bit of a disadvantage. Even if a yellow were to come out now, he would be forced to pit, and everyone else would be semi or relatively fresh. So Brian Barnes now is just kind of playing the waiting game to see how this one turns out.
Brian Barnes, he's actually running about half a second faster than Toby Butler consistently, so if he keeps his pace up, he might be able to just pass Toby Butler and Chris Beck on track.
Now that would benefit him. Yeah, that is a possibility, and it might happen actually now that you say that, because if I remember right, he had to pit at one point, and his car might have another maybe 10 or 15 laps. That might seem like a little too much of an advantage over everybody else. If a yellow were to come out after he may have a lap, that really wouldn't hurt him too bad, I don't think, would it?
No, it would work perfectly. because he would be able to make the position, get a free lap back, and then, I mean, Toby Butler's actually going into pits right now, so as long as he passes Chris Beck pretty soon and a caution comes out, he'll be able to get a free lap.
Meanwhile, William Fletcher just made a really opportunistic pass on Kevin Knodel over in turn 3. Kevin Knodel was exiting the pits, so William Fletcher tried to use his momentum to pass him on the high side. He overshot the turn and slid up into the turn 3 wall, and I don't think it's damaged his car too much, but probably going to make William think twice before attempting to pass on the high side in the future.
Yeah, the high side is definitely a tough one here at this track with only 9 degrees of banking and of course not a whole lot of traction. And you know, it's very hard to think about. When you think of NASCAR, you think of rubbing his racing and, you know, door slamming and trading paint and all these cliche things you can say about over racing, but here it's not the case. We've seen even if you get even a couple inches out of that groove, you get sucked up right into that wall, and that basically says your day is done because, you know, you have to go back to pit road. It's a long lap. You know, one thing, boom, 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 snowballs into a bigger situation, and all of a sudden you're 2 laps down, just like Brian Barnes. So these guys definitely have to have some finesse here today if they want a chance of winning this one.
Meanwhile, most of the leaders of pit, including your leader, Toby Butler, who had a very good stop, a 12.3, I'm getting information. Chris Beck, the new leader into the pits. Now, he was about 2 seconds behind Toby Butler before this all started, so he would have to have a very quick stop and pit entry and pit exit if he would want to challenge Toby for the lead. Toby is going across the... No, he's going into turn 1 right now. He's already gone by Chris Beck. Chris Beck must have had a terrible pit entry because he's going to lose. He's going to be about 10 seconds down by the time this is all done.
Yeah, and you know, Sam, it's one thing I didn't really pay a whole lot of attention to. I probably should have, but I've been noticing a lot of drivers are going for that very short pit road entrance, which is probably the preferred thing to do, but I've been wondering if some of these cars have been taking the long road that comes out of turn 3 all the way around. Of course, that would slow them down tremendously and probably be a no-brainer of why you would not want to do it, but I haven't seen if anybody's actually lost focus and actually did something like that. So I'm wondering if that might be a factor later on, but you know, it's hard to say. I really don't think these guys would make a mistake that drastic and lose that much time, so that probably was a bad entrance.
Yeah, he is 5.5 seconds down, and I'm pretty sure we won't see anyone using the turn 3 pit entry unless their car's badly beaten up, but hey, you never know. Meanwhile, we're coming around to complete lap 60, so we'll soon be hitting the 100 laps left to go mark. And this could be interesting if it goes green to the end, which honestly is a big if. It's, you know, trying to work out pit strategy and when do these cars want to try and make their final stop, because if you pit a lap around lap 125 to lap 130, you could stay out no matter how many cautions are towards the end of a race and maybe gain track position that way and end up winning, but that's a long way down the road, but something we will start to have to think about as these laps kick off.
Absolutely, and I'm just watching Toby Butler. He's managed to get 5.4 seconds over Chris Beck, so he is definitely doing something right, but it looks like we have a back marker that's just in front of him. I think that's Jared Morgan. I could be wrong, but it looks like he's going to take a wide line and let him by and use that draft to his advantage now. So, I know it's good sportsmanship. We got a long ways to go, only on lap 60, as you pointed out, and now these back markers are thinking... outside of Brian Barnes, I should say, are thinking, I'll just stay out of the way and let these guys have their fun. So, again, very good sportsmanship from Jared Morgan.
How did Carl Burke get up into third? He must have had a very good pit stop cycle, because all of a sudden he is running...
Oh, Chris Beck in second place. He just rammed into the inside wall.
And that's going to bring out a caution.
Alright, well, let's see exactly what happened as we go to replay here momentarily. His car's looking in horrible shape. Alright, here we go, get all spooled up. Chris Beck is running all by himself here. He's coming out of, I believe that's turn 2, and running down the back stretch. Everything's looking good. He's maybe going a little bit faster. He had a good exit out of turn 2. He sees a car up ahead, and exactly, I'm not sure. He might have clipped the inside corner there and got a little loose, and then, yep, he He just got loose. He clipped that inside corner there. He went a little below that white stripe. In the Indy cars, it's doable, but in the NASCARs, and maybe not so much with that lack of downforce. So, unfortunately, Chris Beck did lose traction, slid up in between turns 3 and 4, hit the wall pretty hard, and blew his engine, or at least damaged it pretty badly, and that's where we see the dark smoke. Anyways, now with a long yellow coming up, we have a break ahead of us here. We'll be back for some more green flag racing. Hello fans and welcome back to the GSRC broadcast of the Brickyard 400 brought to you by the Northwest Majors. I just want to remind the fans that you can follow us at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter at GSR Channel. So if you have any questions or comments about the broadcast or want to stay in touch with the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. And speaking of social media, we got a post here from Drew Lalonde saying, I'm going for Brian Barnes. I think he can win all of his last back and win it. So some optimism there for the Brian Barnes team. Looking forward in this race. Ayrton, what are the top 10 of this lineup right now?
Well, starting the restart in first, once again, is Toby Butler. Alongside him is Stephen Paulison. Both those guys have not pitted. And then the first of the pitters was Carl Burke in third, Kevin Knodel in fourth, Matthew Rogers in fifth, Mark Redeker in sixth, Matt Gelder in seventh, Tim Ryber in eighth, Ray Forner in ninth, and then William Fletcher in 10th.
And Sam, we're going to talk to you about what happened after the yellow came out as far as pit stops here in a moment, but it looks like we are coming out of turn 4 and the lights are out, so that means green flag racing is literally just around the corner. Toby Butler is still leading this race. He has Stephen Paulison on the outside in that 58 car, and then right behind is Carl Burke, so this should be a good one now as Toby Butler has control of the field, currently going 66 miles per hour, getting ready to launch as we start the start-finish line, and he's actually waiting a little bit longer this time to go. There's the green, so off they go. Everyone's nice and tidy, forming up. Matthew Rogers is very close to the inside line there once again. Everyone just trying to make it through turn 1 here, no drama yet. And it looks like Toby Butler is done it again with another good launch through turns 1 and soon to be turns 2, Sam.
Yeah, I didn't think he would get a launch track good restarting that late. Whenever I've had a pole position here, I've always wanted to go as early as possible. But yeah, talking about the tyre situation, Toby Butler and Stephen Paulison, who started on the front row there, were the only 2 cars that did not pit under that latest caution. Jared Morgan got a wave around and is back on the lead lap. Mike Willett is 1 car, 1 lap down, and then Brian Barnes is 2 laps down. So of course the question will be, will that extra 2 to 5 laps newer rubber on Carl Burke's car help him pass Stephen Paulison or maybe even Toby Butler? I don't think he'll be able to get by Toby, but he certainly is giving Stephen the run for his money right now.
Yeah, and Carl Burke definitely looking very fast as he did pit, and he is eating up Stephen Paulison in these corners. Matthew Rogers also on new rubber coming around turn 2 there. All of these drivers in the front are very fast, but the cars in 3rd and 4th place do have the advantage. And then it looks like a little bit of a gap to the next bit of cars. So Sam, excuse me while I clear my throat, this is definitely going to be a very intense battle to see if the guys that pitted can outrun the guys who did not.
Hey, has Brian Barnes lost the connection again?
Well, not what Brian Barnes or Drew Lalonde want to see, as they were rooting for Brian to go ahead and get those laps back. Hopefully Brian Barnes can find a way to make it happen, but you know, we just had a really long green stint. It doesn't look like yellows will be a factor today. Unfortunately, Brian Barnes might as well park it at this point because there's a long ways to go before he gets those laps back, being a 2.5 mile circuit. So Toby Butler already got 6/10 over Stephen Paulison. You can definitely tell that Toby can drive the car no matter how good or bad those tires are. Stephen Paulison under attack right now by Carl Burke and Matthew Rogers, almost both bumper to bumper, so they're very close and looking very good here. And then the next car behind them is Kevin Knodel, so Kevin's working his way up into the top 5 now, with Matt Gelder not too far behind Ayrton. So yeah, right now it looks like, whoa, we have a car going a little crazy. Who is that down there? I did not get a car number, but someone got very loose going through turn 3 there.
Yeah, it looks like Stephen Paulson actually made a little bit of a mistake on the exit of turn 3, and Carl Burke got the position. So Carl Burke now in second, but he still has a lot of pressure from Stephen Paulson, and Toby Butler already gained about a 2nd lead.
Yeah, and Carl Burke just moved up to 2nd place. I'm having my mouth full all of a sudden here as Toby Butler comes around turn 2 again, followed by Carl Burke about a 2nd back. Stephen Paulson might be reconsidering his decision to not get new tires because now Matthew Rogers is all over him, and with that added pressure, it's where people are being prone to make mistakes. So unfortunately, it looks like Matthew Rogers and Stephen Paulson are going to have a little bit of a tense moments trying to see who can hold on to that 3rd position and stay on top of the podium. Sam, where are we looking right now?
I'm looking at pit road. The number 4 car of Brian Barnes has came back. He will return to the race, but will be 5 laps down now. So now it's just damage limitation, trying to get as many positions as he can through attrition. Meanwhile, another place I'm looking at is Chris Beck, who brought out the last caution. Would have thought he'd be making a better impression through the field as Ray Fournier goes up and almost into the wall to let him by, and William Fletcher actually also up in the wall, so Chris Beck just gained 2 spots right there. Because Chris Beck really, along with Brian Barnes today, has really been the only one that has shown any kind of pace to challenge Toby Butler. So I was expecting him to make a bit more of an impression through the field. Meanwhile though, William Fletcher said he was in the wall over in turn 1. He's got damage to the rear spoiler and the right front fender. He has fallen all the way to the back of the pack. He started this lap in 9th place. He is now down in 12th.
Yeah, that Havoline car has seen better days. It looks like William Fletcher just kind of ran out of luck and started banging off that wall, so we've seen a few drivers having some struggles going through turns 3, 4, and 1. Typically the high-speed quarters of the track because of how turn 2 gets you a nice launch all the way around to the back end. So William Fletcher has to make enough to do. He's 13 seconds back from the leader. Ray Fournier is not doing too bad now, but he's also 10 seconds back. Jared Morgan working his way up now in the top 10 once again. He had the lucky dog earlier on, 8.9 seconds back. So still a pretty good spread here in the field today in the top lead lapping cars, 12 to be exact. But, you know, everyone's staying nice and bunched up, and that's what we like to see here in iRacing.
Yeah, and it's still been staying green, and you see Brian Barnes has returned to the circuit, but like I say, about 5 or 6 laps down now, so it's damage prevention. But meanwhile, we've got a pretty impressive pack, pretty much all through the field actually. Look at this, Toby Butler on these old tyres has lost his lead to Cole Burke, so Cole may soon be putting on the challenge on Toby for the lead. So Toby may have the fastest car, but made a bit of a bad strategy call, I would say, under that last caution, because everyone else on the lead lap pit, so had he pit, he probably would have came out in the lead. Of course, had he pit, maybe some more cars would have stayed out to try and pass him that way. But so we got about for first there, we got about for third between Stephen Paulison on old tyres and Matthew Rogers behind him, and then we got a 3-way battle for 5th between Matt Kelder, Mark Rediker and Kevin Canodal. But really, this battle up front is what I want to keep an eye on, see if Cole can be our new challenger for Toby today.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are stepping up to the plate to try to take down Toby Butler. Toby definitely impressive, the most impressive on the field, running with those older tires and making it look easy. Harold Burke has still a lot of work to do. As we said earlier, this track is all about timing and rhythm, so if you get either one of those factors wrong, you're going to have a bad day, as we've seen many bouncing out the wall and having bad luck in other ways. So again, Toby Butler just kind of trying to keep it calm. Doesn't want to overdrive the car right now because his tires are a little bit older, not by much, but still enough to be a factor. Harold Burke putting down a lot of aggression right now, staying in the draft the best he can. He's going to be saving fuel as long as he stays close. And then there's quite a big gap. Stephen Pollison's 2 seconds back, Ayrton. So let's go over and see Stephen Pollison versus Matthew Rogers in that blue and red number 14 car. Let's watch this battle for a little bit.
Yeah, it was actually pretty interesting. Last time by on the front stretch, Matthew Rogers had a very good run, could have easily made a pass into turn 1, but instead decided to stick behind Paulison and bump draft him actually on the front stretch. Maybe he's thinking about working together with him to try to catch back up to leaders, but that's a good 2.5 seconds, so that's going to be a tough task.
Absolutely, and Sam, Matthew Rogers looking very good today. Of course, he did pit earlier on, but still, it's kind of funny to watch Toby Butler drive away and having these guys, Stephen Pollison, also on old tires, staying in the top 3, and Matthew Rogers is having trouble getting around them. It must be kind of frustrating for Matthew Rogers, thinking, I got newer tires and I've been racing clean and keeping my car clean. How come I can't get around this guy? So right now, Matthew Rogers got a lot of work ahead of him.
Yeah, but it's still the day, and we're about approaching halfway here, and he's up to 4th. So by that rate of progress, he may be in the lead by the end of the race. So maybe that's his optimism of thinking. Carl Burke, meanwhile, a couple of laps ago was right up on Toby Butler. Has fallen back a bit now. I don't know if that's just the dirty air off the back of Toby's car pushing him back, or maybe Cole's beginning to burn his tyres off. We saw earlier that he was one of the cars who seemed to struggle in the long run, but he's still in striking distance, so he's definitely keeping Toby honest. It's a battle I'm going to keep my eyes on.
Absolutely, and right now as Toby Butler crosses the line, that puts us on lap 75. So we have a little ways to go yet in this race. We appreciate everybody's fandom and support. We all know in oval racing there's a lot of factions and sponsorships out there, but it looks like Jimmy Johns is benefiting the most because Toby Butler, man, he's been freaky fast all day. But let's go back in the field a little bit. I'm looking at who's behind Matthew Rogers right now. That's Matt Gelder and, of course, Mark Redeker. These two have been going at it for quite a while. They got the 59 car and the 5 car racing here coming through turns 3 and 4. Not too much goes in the way of trying to pass one another, but these guys have been racing very clean and close throughout the whole entire last set of green flag laps. And not far behind we have Kevin Kernable, and that's the 7th place. So it's a good little 3-car train coming on back here, Sam. A lot of intensity coming through this group, even though they're quite a ways back from the leader.
Yeah, Redeker had the run on him there. He could have certainly, I believe, attempted a move for 5th position if he wanted to, but he chose not to. Maybe he thought he was too far back, or maybe he's just thinking it's a bit too early, although he's got a much better run here. Let's see if Redeker, yeah, he's going to look down the inside this time. I have a feeling we're about to see a change for 5th, and really Gelder's best option is to let him go, because look, Gelder's made a mistake here, because now he's running side by side. He's in that undesirable outside line during the turn, and that's going to cause Kevin Knodel to run him down, and Gelder may lose 2 spots. If he'd just given the spot up to Redeker on the straight, he may have only lost 1.
Absolutely, and I think Redeker played that just right. He got himself on the inside line very early, made his intentions clear, gave Gelder plenty of chances to defend or decide to let him go, and I think Gelder just waited too long to make up his decision. He was lucky not to lose that position to Kevin Kernodle, but he lost a ton of speed through turns 3 and 4, trying to avoid that wall. We saw how wide he went into 3, almost going all the way up to the corner there, and that's never easy to come out of, as we know with the way the track is, with the singular groove to keep the car moving in. So again, Matt Gelder losing the position to Mark Redeker, had some chances to make a few decisions. Didn't look like it turned out too well for him. And not too far back in 8th now, we have Chris Beck working his way forward. I don't know if he's close enough to get any draft benefits, but he's been kind of creeping his way up here, Ayrton, and showing some pace, like he's ready to make up for that little bit of incident he had earlier on.
Yeah, I've been keeping an eye on him. He's managed to gain about 4 positions from the restart, so he's moving up, and he should, within the next few laps, be able to get within the draft of these guys. Actually, he might be within the draft. Now he's about 2nd behind these guys, so if he can pass all these guys for position, he will be able to get up into 5th place position. So good run back up to the front for Chris Beck, but he still has Lars. He's going to probably have to go for a caution if he wants to get back up to the front.
Absolutely, and Sam, speaking of cautions, it seems like it's been already quite a while since the last one. It's funny how these longer races start to and put some endurance onto these drivers. We're looking at somewhere around an hour and 20 minutes so far, and we're on lap 78 of 160. So you know these guys are definitely be feeling it later on. And talk a little bit about how these longer races can kind of help you lose your focus, so to speak, as it goes on and on and on and on.
Yeah, well, like you say, it just gets so routine eventually if you're not battling anyone out there. If your car's handling good enough where you're not fighting at each turn, eventually you may just be sleeping, entering a turn almost. Hasn't been the problem yet, but we've still got half a race left to go. But meanwhile, you were talking about a while since the last caution. Remember, Toby Butler and Stephen Paulison didn't pit under the last caution. I have a feeling they're going to be making inroads to pit road in the next 5 laps here. And if Toby Butler pits and a caution comes out, he may end up a lap down, and that can make his race very interesting.
That would be very interesting as well. And we're back on Kevin Kernodle. It looks like we got Chris Beck working his way back up there just behind as he tries to look on the outside there, coming in the turns. I think that's 3 and 4 as we see where we are on the track. Nope, that's 1 and 2. So right now Kevin Kernodle under a lot of pressure here, and the 2 cars in front of him, this might be a multiple car pass if he gets a good run in the 3. It doesn't look like he's going to, and nope, he will not because of the block on the inside. It looks like the 59 is about to lose a position here. That's from Matt Gelder on the inside, trying to get that spot back that he lost earlier. Chris Beck follows through in the number 34 car. Not enough momentum to get it done, but he forces the 59 to make a decision, and now it gives Chris Beck a good run up the inside line. He looks like he's also going to go ahead and try and get Gelder. So it looks like right now Chris Beck is the fastest mover on the track as he's just passed 3 or 4 cars all at once.
Yeah, 3 cars in 1 lap. Meanwhile, while that's going on, we got a battle for third. Matthew Rogers has finally made a move by Stephen Paulison, who's on the old tyres, actually grazes the wall going down the backstretch. But Paulison tried to give a challenge, but I have a feeling that's a battle that would be in vain, so he'd probably be better off letting that one go. But yeah, an amazing couple of turns there by Chris Beck. He goes from 8th to 5th within 3 turns, really.
We're right now on board with Stephen Paulson, who's in 4th place, trying to track down Matthew Rogers, who's just in front of him. You can just kind of get a sense of how difficult this track is with the lag of banking is. When you come through these corners, they're almost flat, almost in a way like a very, very long version of New Hampshire, with the way how the track looks like it's not even bending even at the slightest bit. So it looks like Matthew Rogers goes just a little wide, doesn't have any threat from that wall, but might have scrubbed off a little bit of speed coming out of turn 2. We'll see if Stephen Paulson is going to be able to get a run. Stephen Paulson. I've been getting that wrong, and I apologize for that. But it looks like Matthew Rogers is going to be able to keep that position for quite a while now, because Stephen doesn't look like he has the pace to make a move as we come through turns 3 and 4, Sam.
Yeah, meanwhile, a little bit ahead of this, Carl Burke has really dropped off the pace. He has, I guess, finally burnt off his tyres. He's losing about a second a lap to Toby Butler right now. And in fact, Matthew Rogers may soon be challenging him for second, Burton.
Yeah, I'm really interested with that, though. Carl Burke, I guess he was just spending his tires too much trying to keep pace with Toby Butler, ended up burning them out. And even though he has fresher tires than Toby Butler by 5 or so laps, he burnt them out very quickly, and that's it. Matthew Rogers definitely going to be a threat in the next coming laps.
Yeah, and I've been thinking about that myself, how Toby Butler can be on that old of a car, or tire, so to speak, and be able to pull 2.8 seconds on second place, and then also run away from the field with cars as far back as 50 seconds, or near 50 seconds. That's just very impressive feat by Toby Butler today, Aaron, and I'm very impressed with the way he's driving. Yeah,
last lap alone, he ran about second faster than Carl Burke. Though Matthew Rogers still running pretty fast laps, almost the same pace as Toby Butler. So definitely he's doing well on the long run as well. As we've seen a majority of races, some of these guys do really well on the long run. It might be with their car set up.
Absolutely, and a lot of the guys are running probably a stiffer spring, but a lot of the NASCAR drivers in this newest build, or the most recent build, as I know we're approaching a week where we're going to get a new build even, they've been running softer springs, and these softer springs will get you a little more grip over the long run if you balance the car just right. So, it might come down to who has the best, the most time into their setup, as you said, over the long haul.
Carl Burke's heading down into the pits, and not a moment too soon, honestly, because over in turn 3, he must have been tight or something, because he went and hit the apron to try and loosen the car up, and it almost got away from him. We almost had our third caution of the race for Carl Burke, but he's bringing that Chevrolet to pit race.
Well, that's going to move Matthew Rogers up to second place. Stephen Paulson 6 seconds back from the lead, as in 3rd and 4th we have Chris Beck. 5th, Kevin Kernodle, he's moving his way up. In 6th, we have Mark Redeker. 7th is Matt Gelder. 8th, we have Carl Burke. 9th, we have Tim Reiber. And 10th, we have Jared Morgan. Of course, after that, a bunch of cars a lap down, including William Fletcher, Ray Fournier, Mike Willett, Jerry Nichols, and Brian Barnes. So right now, it looks like we still have plenty of cars on the lead lap. Lots to talk about as we see Carl Burke fixing his tires and heading on his way out. Currently, the camera is on the 59 car. That is, I believe, Mark Redeker, as he tries to track down Kevin Kernodle. Aaron, where are we looking on the track right now?
Well, I mean, at the moment, I'm looking at Chris Beck. He's managed to get himself all the way back up to 4th place. He's only about 8.8 seconds behind the leader, so he's stayed within that 8-second gap for the last 10 or so laps. So he definitely has the same pace as Toby Butler. I'm interested to see if he'll be able to catch up to Stephen Paulison in these upcoming laps. And if he can, he'll be up into 3rd place. So he's running really well, trying to catch back up to the front of the field.
Yeah, and it looks like he's doing a very good job indeed, Sam. It's kind of interesting. We see Carl Burt now 9th place. I believe he was the guy we were talking about earlier having trouble keeping his tires fresh. I believe it was the 1st or 2nd stint he had some trouble with tires as well. So maybe his cars is set up poorly for a long haul like this. We were actually talking earlier today before the race started that we were thinking this might have a few more yellows in this. So maybe these guys are... maybe we were thinking that, they were thinking that the shorter stint would be more optimum, and they're just setting up for shorter bursts rather than longer stints.
Yeah, and one thing we're going to have to consider now as we're getting into later stages of a race is that when these drivers make mistakes on their old tyres and slide up into the wall, they may be out of their free repairs. And I believe William Fletcher in that number 28 car, he just came into the pits and he disappeared. So I think that's a retirement. And also another point to that, Jared Morgan just made the pit stop, but even when he came out, he still got damage on his car, so he's used up his free repairs. So we are beginning to see these walls taking their toll on the field, Ayrton.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm actually surprised I didn't see earlier in the race. I was expecting... Oh, as the caution just came out, I'm going to check what happened there.
Ray Fournier has a lot of front end damage. I don't know if that's what brought that. Yeah, he got up in the wall in turn 3. Wow, he ends up going upside down. But Gary Nichols did very well to avoid him.
We're going to replay right now. We're looking at the 26 car. Hits the wall pretty hard. Gary Nichols, I think, just barely misses him. But yeah, right as he went over that barricade, or excuse me, not barricade, that curb, lifted the car up, he hit the grass kind of awkwardly and then had no chance of slowing down. Hits that inside track wall, flips the car over. Luckily he lands on his tires and heads down pit road. That car is definitely looking like it's second hand, as Richard Lasper would always say. And it might be the end of the day for Ray Fournier's. I'm pretty sure he used both of his quick repairs as we mentioned earlier. So bad break for Ray on that one. Gary Nichols, on the other hand, probably counting his blessings that his car barely took any damage, if any at all, and then a few cars afterwards just barely missing him as Ray gets out of the way. Well, we're on...
Before we go to the break, I just want to say 2 big winners over this next period of pit stops are going to be Matt Gelder and Stephen Paulison, because they were in pit road when the caution came out, and all the leaders are about to come in and pit, and those 2 will get to stay out.
Yeah, as you're saying that, we were looking at the on-screen camera angle one more time from Gary Nichols' car. Just already had some engine hood damage. I'm not sure what from, but we just saw that 26 skim just across the front of Gary's car as if nothing ever happened. So luckily for Gary, despite being so far back in the field, can keep on racing there. Well, with that being said, we've delayed our break long enough. It's time to go to break. We'll be back for some more green flag racing.
Love child.
Hello and welcome back to the GSRC broadcast of the Northwest Majors Brickyard 400 Airden. We want to remind our fans real fast that they can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter at GSRC Channel. So if you have any questions or comments about the broadcast or want to stay in touch with the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. Airden, go ahead and run us down the running order now. It looks like we had a few pit stops and some people may have benefited from it.
Yeah, so for the end, or rather the restart for this race will be Stephen Paulison starting in first for a change, and then Toby Butler, our previous leader, is going to be starting alongside him in second, Matthew Rogers in third, then Chris Beck making a good run back up to fourth place. Then we've got Mark Redeker in fifth, Kevin Knodel in sixth, Tim River in seventh, Matt Gelder in eighth, Carl Burke in ninth, and Mike Ouellette in 10th.
Absolutely, and I do want to make a quick correction. That's GSR channel, not GSRC channel. GSR channel if you want to get us on Twitter with any of your questions or comments. Now, again, Stephen Paulison is finally in the lead now as we look at this yellow flag period. Toby Butler in second place. That's the first time I think Toby Butler has been out of the lead position, so finally someone can temporarily take away Toby's reign of terror as we get ready to go back to racing. I believe the lights are off on the car. We're coming out of turn 2. But yeah, Mike Ouellette, I was expecting more out of him today. It seems like he's been running from the back of the pack quite a bit, Airden. I apologize, I haven't watched a lot of his race today, but I'm wondering, either is his car not set up properly or has he just had some bad luck that we missed?
Well, he started pretty far back. He's the first car lap down, so another caution comes out. He's got that lucky dog to hope for, so he's in a good position. 10th place is pretty good. He's in the top half of the field, so definitely a good spot in case another caution comes out.
Yes, indeed, and I'm looking through the field. We got Brian Barnes still quite a ways back in the number 4 WD-40 car. He's in 15th place. Unfortunately, he's gone down to 5 laps down due to his internet today. Of course, I know how that goes. I've had some internet issues the last couple of days myself, so I can definitely sympathize with him. Some of the other drivers that are out of the race right now, we got Jimmy Jones, had some mid-race drama. Andrew Marienthal, again, had some mid-race drama. Brian Marsteller has been out for quite a while now, so I don't think those guys are coming back anytime soon. And, of course, Ray Fournier is another driver that's had some issues. 2 hits to the nose of his car today, so definitely not one of those races for him that he'll want to remember very long. But needless to say, we are going back to green flag racing here as we see the pace car getting ready to peel off. Everybody's double file. We have now Stephen Paulison is going to be controlling the grid, 66 miles an hour ahead for the start-finish line, and he doesn't wait half as long as everyone else does as he takes off pretty early, Airden, and tries to get down into turn 1 nice and clean.
Yeah, actually, he waits very long on the restart and really has Matthew Rogers right on his bumper, putting a lot of pressure on him, but manages to get the lead over Toby Butler and already Chris Beck. He's really pressuring these guys.
Yes, indeed, and I apologize. I had the replay mode set, so I did not see the actual start of the race. There was a bit of a delay, but needless to say, William Fletcher and a few other cars are down nice and low already, and Brian Barnes is shooting up the middle, taking it 3 wide temporarily as he's trying to find some room on the track. It looks like a lot of guys got scattered back there. And did you see what happened coming out of turn 2?
No, it looks pretty chaotic. I can check to see if there's any incidents, but it looks like everyone managed to get through it fairly cleanly.
Absolutely, and Stephen Paulison still leading the race. Probably not for long, though, as Toby Butler has been very fast. He did a stint on older tires than everybody in the field and waited for a yellow flag to come in and pit once again. So this guy is a magician out there, definitely lengthening his green flag efficiency as we come through the track. Matthew Rogers has moved up to 3rd place in the 14 blue, white, and red car. He's looking very good right now as he has some attack from Chris Beck. Chris Beck, he moved like 7 or 8 positions from the original issue that he had, and was able to come up and make a bunch of positions up, and now he's actually diving down the inside of Matthew Rogers, so we'll see if he gets that position to stick. It looks like Chris Beck has just moved up to 3rd place. That's going to slot Matthew Rogers down to 4th. Now Mark Redeker is just behind in the 59 car now, also looking to attack Matthew Rogers in that 14 car, and Kevin Knodel just behind them, also putting in some issues.
Here goes Toby. Oh no, he doesn't. He backs out of it. He was underneath Stephen Paulison there. Yeah, Toby Butler got a very poor restart. He could have certainly done a better job of that, maybe pulled away several more car lengths. But I'll tell you what, he's done a pretty good job at holding on. And there's contact between Carl Burke, spins Kevin Canodo around into the outside wall.
Not good at all, and we'll see exactly what happened in a few moments. These guys are definitely looking very aggressive now on lap 95. To see what happened. Now it looks like Kevin Kernodle, excuse me, was on the outside coming down the start line. He comes on the inside of turns 1 and 2. The car behind gets just a little bit of a run there. Carl Burke, I believe that is, and comes. He had a good run. He made a good legitimate turn into turn 2. Maybe stretching for a space that wasn't quite there, but I think if they would have just cooperated a little bit, they could have got through there. Of course, that might have been a little bit of net code as well. So, unfortunately, you know, that's just part of oval racing. You're gonna get some of those bad breaks, and unfortunately, that cost a few guys a few positions. So, Sam, I'm not sure what your thoughts are exactly, but I honestly thought that was actually a pretty legitimate attempt for a pass.
Yeah, and even if it was, if someone gets under you, you might want to give them the position. Certainly better the back out and say I could have gone for it rather than go for it and then realise, oh, no, I probably shouldn't have done that. But yeah, Stephen Paulison has done a marvellous job at keeping it up front in front of Toby Butler despite a rather rushed restart. Now, let's reiterate the reason why Stephen Paulison is up there is because he made his latest pit stop right as the caution came out, so the field slowed down. He was able to come out of pit road in front of a leader, catch back up with the leaders. All the leaders who hadn't pit came into the pits under caution. Stephen Paulison was sent to the front of the line on new cars, and that's how he's been able to get the lead and keep it so far. But I have a feeling it's only a matter of time before Toby Butler or Chris Beck get by him. I hope Stephen learned from the last restart though and gets off to a quicker restart this time.
Absolutely, and I'm trying to figure out if the league admins are going to try and extend this yellow or make it shorter. It looks like they're going to do a full yellow service. So with that being said, unless our director clubs me over the head, we're going to take a short break, come back for some green flag racing, and we're almost nearing the 100 lap mark, so we'll have about 60 laps to go when we come back from this break. Hello and welcome back to the GSRC broadcast of the Northwest Majors Brickyard 400. We want to remind the fans that they can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel and Twitter, let's see if I get it right this time, at GSR Channel. So if you have any questions or comments about the broadcast or want to stay in touch with the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. Airden, run us through the grid as we get ready to go back to green.
Well, Stephen Paulson is going to be able to stick in the lead for a second restart in a row. Chris Beck is going to be alongside him in second place. Then Mark Redeker in third. Tim Ryber in fourth. And then first guy who did pit during this caution is Toby Butler in fifth.
Stephen Paulson is going to have a lot on his plate now as he has Chris Beck, who's been very fast in this race, starting on the outside of him. And of course, Mark Redeker also been pretty good in this race, starting right behind him. So there's lots of pressure from within his proximity here to start going into turn one. But let's not forget Toby Butler, who's dominated this race. He had to make a pit stop. He chose that to try and make it one last time as we see the pace car go off. It's going to be interesting to see how Toby fares here in the last 60 laps of this race. We're going on board with Mark Redeker for the start. We're going to go down into turn one once everyone gets up to speed. And there we go, Stephen Paulson taking the lead. He has a pretty good jump, but Chris Beck also reacted very good as he is now side by side going into turn one and actually had an outside passing attempt. I can't believe he just made that stick on relatively cold tires. Chris Beck looking back and not leaving any chance for anybody to catch him. He just took off and said goodbye as he is now the race leader, but Stephen Paulson also has to keep going now. We see a bunch of cars sticking out there looking for room. We got Carl Berg, Matthew Rogers, a few others as well. Kevin Knoble way back there trying to find some space. But wow, what a start, Sam, going through turn one.
Yeah, Chris Beck and Stephen Paulson did not pit. The reason so many cars did is because they can all make it to the end on one more stop now. But yeah, Chris Beck has been a front runner all race, and Stephen Paulson has been more like a top 5 runner. And that shows you just how much of a difference that played, with Chris Beck really making a power move on the latest restart. Toby Butler has worked his way up into third spot. He should be able to pick off Stephen easily, although I say that he wasn't able to do it under the last green flag run. But I've got to begin wondering, how easy will it be for Toby Butler to get by Chris Beck once he gets second, which in my opinion he will do, because Chris Beck was proved earlier that he was one of the drivers that could hang with Toby. Eventually he burnt his tyres off and fell back. I've got to wonder, I think those two are really going to put on the show in the closing lap, certainly.
Yeah, this is actually the first time that Chris Beck has led during this race, so it's a different situation here. Instead of him chasing someone, he's the one leading, so that could really cause driving to be a little different. Maybe he won't be able to handle the pressure. Maybe he really thrives under pressure. So we've got Toby Butler now on Stephen Paulson trying to make a pass in turn two. He's on the inside. They're side by side as they go into the backstretch.
Toby Butler looking very good here. He did get a decent run, but I think he decides that he wants to stay behind Stephen Paulson for the time being with Carl Berg. I think that's Carl Berg anyways, right behind him. Actually, no, that's Mark Redeker of the 59 car there. We got about 58, 57 laps, give or take, to go in this race, so Toby's not in any rush to try and make these positions back. Of course, sooner would be better, but now we see the 59 getting trapped to the outside. He's about to get freight trained as Toby Butler opened up a pocket of air and a bunch of cars trying to get by. Toby Butler moving up once again, looking very fast now, as I think he's on his way to Chris Beck now. And now that he's passed Stephen Paulson, it's hard to say if Chris Beck has a chance to even hold off Toby for much longer there, Airden.
Yeah, well, Chris Beck, just for those guys running side by side, he's already broken about a 2.5-second lead, and these guys, they're still in the draft of Toby Butler, so they can still pressure him a little bit as long as they have that draft. So Toby Butler, he might have quite a bit of work just to get these guys off his tail and also to catch up to Chris Beck, because Chris Beck has shown that he works really well on cold tires, so it might be a good 20 laps before Toby Butler actually starts closing in on that long run.
Looks like a couple cars are losing positions. The 59 and Carl Berg both went way out wide going into turn 3, moving, I think that was Matthew Rogers, up a few positions. So Matthew, again, he was running in the top 5 for a long time in this race, and now he's found a new home in 4th place, Sam. Looking very good, but however, Toby, I'm keeping my eye on Toby. He just made up a little bit of time on Chris Beck, and he has a little ways to go, but he's doing pretty good right now.
Yeah, I don't know what was wrong with Carl Burke back there, but I can tell you what's wrong with Mark Redeker is that a couple of laps ago he got a piece of a wall coming out of turn 4 and that's damage on the right hand side of his car, so that could very easily be affecting the handling of his race car. But yeah, it's going to be interesting now watching the lap times of Chris Beck and Toby Butler to see if and how quickly Toby is running Chris in. Meanwhile, Matthew Rogers all over the back of Stephen Paulison today.
Yeah, I think Stephen Paulison's in a little bit of trouble, Ayrton, as he's coming down this front straight. Paulison takes a slightly staggered line to Matthew Rogers. Matthew choosing to get as close to the wall as possible and trying to open up as much room as possible in turn 1. Hopefully trying to get a good run out of turn 2 and then down the back straight. If that works out, he'll get Paulison, but Ayrton, Paulison looks like a sitting duck because Matthew Rogers is looking very hungry right now.
Yeah, we have seen Paulison. He's been pretty difficult to pass for a lot of these guys. He's very good at getting those good exits out of the corners, so it's difficult to get runs on him. It looks like Matthew Rogers has managed to get a good run out of turn 2, and he shoots right on by on the entrance to turn 3, slides a little bit, manages to control his car as he almost hits the wall, and lets Stephen Paulison get back that position. So made a pass, went a little bit too deep into it, almost lost control, managed to save it, but lost that position once again.
Let's see what the time split is now between Toby and Chris. It's about 1/10 of a difference. So right now Chris Beck is actually running pretty much the same lap times as Toby Butler with only 1/10 of a difference between the two of them. Sam, I'm going to look a little ways back though. Stephen Paulison and Matthew Rogers are still battling pretty close. It's hard to choose who I want to watch more right now. Toby seeing if he can catch up with Chris Beck, or these guys right behind him fighting for third place. Both are equally as exciting as they come down this back straight into turn 3.
Yeah, battle for third has actually broken up a little bit here. It's a lot tighter a little bit ago, but yeah, Toby and not really closing on Chris right now, but I have a feeling that will change as the run goes on. We saw Toby had the better long run car in the past, and also we do still have at least one more round of pit stops left to come up, so still a lot of stuff can happen. And we currently have 7 cars running on the lead lap: Chris Beck, Toby Butler, Stephen Paulison, Matthew Rogers, Mark Redeker, Carl Burke and Tim Ryber. Everyone else a lap down, and the last name there kind of stands out. Tim Ryber, really haven't mentioned him a whole lot today. He's a regular in the Northwest Majors on the oval races. He's usually up there for the first half of the race and kind of falls out in the bottom half of the race. So far, knocking on wood, he's actually done well at keeping himself up there all race long.
Yeah, you know what they say. Sorry, Aaron, for cutting you off, but you know what they say. Actually, I want to break away. It looks like Ray Fournier, I think that was, actually crunched his car and looking pretty bad. Did he blow his engine by any chance?
I'm looking back on it. I'm not sure, actually. I don't see any. Actually, I do. He did blow his engine.
Yeah, that definitely looks like a blown engine. I mean, I'm not seeing the smoke or anything, but he's not gaining any speed. Oh, sorry, we have a better view here. Coming down the back stretch all by himself, just gradually losing speed. So yeah, that has to be a blown engine. There's no way that his engine's still running. Sorry to cut away from you there, Ayrton. Where are we looking at on the track?
I forget what Sam asked me now, but anyways, Chris Beck, Toby Butler are still running almost identical lap. Toby Butler managed to close in about 10th in that last lap, so he's slowly closing in, but they're still running very fast laps together.
I think I just saw Toby Butler skim the wall just a little bit. That could have just been the camera angle making it look that way. Either way, Toby Butler has closed the gap even more now from 1.8 seconds down to 1.2 seconds, Sam. He's definitely starting to get that pace back. I think you're right. I think Toby is a more of the long-haul driver, looking big picture in terms of his strategy and the setup, whereas Chris Beck's more of a a one-and-done kind of guy where he uses up his tires pretty quick, and that's where he starts to get into trouble. So Sam, it's hard to say right now, but this battle's starting to develop once again.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be a driving thing. Could just be a setup thing. Maybe Butler has a setup that does better in the long run. Meanwhile, we're watching this battle for third, which is a battle. Stephen Paulison, and we've been watching this for quite a while actually. Rogers right behind him, not able to get a good exit out of turn 4 though. Meanwhile, there has been a change for 5th behind them. Carl Burke has passed Mark Redeker in his damaged car. the battle for third holding station right now, and maybe that means Carl Burke will begin to run these two drivers in.
Yeah, and right now we're on board with Mark Redeker, who's sitting in 6th place. You know, a little ways from the car in front of him. I believe that is Carl Burke, so we're looking up ahead. Kind of just amazing how these cars get spread out so quickly after a green flag, or excuse me, a yellow flag stint, and it's hard to say if Mark has some damage. It looks like the right side of his car might be a little dented, so these cars are starting to feel a little tired and a little bit bruised, Aaron. You know, it's now more of a survival game. Get to that window where you can start to give it more of a push now as we go back to Matthew Rogers, and then hopefully try and make one last grasp for the win.
Yeah, Matthew Rogers actually last time by hit the wall out of turn 4, so that might have caused a little bit of steering issues. He seems to be able to keep pace with Stephen Paulison, still pressuring him really hard. So I don't think that affected him too much, but as you said, these guys really have to be careful because most of them have probably already used their faster pairs due to their previous stops. So they have to be careful. Any instant now can really cost them.
We're on board with Matthew Rogers still, and we saw that Matthew got a huge run going through turn 1. I had to actually slow down a little bit not to run into Paulison coming out of turn 2. Paulison took a little bit of an inside line, got some curbing, and that's been slowing him down a little bit. I'm starting to get the sense that Stephen Paulison is starting to have his tires give out a little bit on him, or Matthew Rogers has really picked up the pace this last couple of laps using that draft and getting the timing really perfect for entry of these corners, because he is just all over the back of Paulson.
Speaking about picking up pace, Toby Butler has closed in about 3/10 for every lap from the last 3 laps on Chris Beck, and he's about he's less than 7/10 behind him right now in drafting distance, so we should see a pass coming from him pretty soon.
Yeah, I can't imagine Chris Beck will fight him too much this early on, because it's a very wide track, so he ain't going to be able to block the whole thing. Maybe with 2 laps to go or the final lap he'd try, but I think it will be a bit too much right now. I have a feeling Toby Butler will be leading this race within the next couple of laps. Meanwhile, Ray Fournier has lost the connection. He's actually been out of the race for a few laps. We are down to 13 cars currently.
Yeah, I was just thinking about Ray Fournier and his lack of good luck today. He's crashed his cars a few times, used both of his quick repairs, and still had more drama later on in the race. And then his internet goes out, so it's one of those strange happenings, man. It's not. Sometimes it's just not your day, and for Ray, it's definitely one of those days. We're looking right now at Chris Beck and Toby Butler as they are almost on top of each other once again. Toby Butler has been working very hard today in that Chevrolet Jimmy John's 08 car, and I think Sam, you're spot on. I think within the next 2 laps, Chris Beck is going to be going the other direction as far as positions.
Yeah, it could be within the next couple of turns actually, if Toby does a good execution of turns 1 and 2. Chris Beck is one of the race control workers here, so I have a feeling he's going to be preaching safe racing and everything, so you shouldn't see him attempt any blockings or anything here. Let's see, Toby's got the run. He's a bit far back though. Nope, here he goes down the inside. Chris Beck already rolling out the gas. Smart thing to do there. Won't lose any speed into the corner. And Toby Butler will be your lead as they come around to complete lap 114.
Yeah, and on lap 114, that pass for the lead was obviously textbook. Nothing wrong whatsoever with that one. So with that being said, now we'll keep an eye on the development of this battle. I'm guessing Chris Beck's going to lose a lot of time now as we hear him talking over the radio and kind of already losing that gap. Let's move back to Matthew Rogers area and watch and see if that battle's developed anymore.
Well, actually, at about the same time, Matthew Rogers made a move on Stephen Paulson, and he's managed to get that 3rd place position and already looking to pull away. He's already got a half-second gap, so Matthew Rogers might be quite a bit faster than Stephen Paulson, or Paulson might be struggling on tires already.
Yeah, so currently top 5 is Toby Butler, Chris Beck, Matthew Rogers, Stephen Paulison, and Carl Burke, and then Mark Redeker and Tim Reber round out the top 7, the cars left on the lead lap. And honestly, everything seems to imply it's gonna stay that way for a little bit, although in about 10-15 laps we will see the final round of pit stops. We saw one green flag round of pit stops early, and everyone seemed to do a good job doing that round. No one spun entering the pits, no one spun exiting the pits. Everyone seemed to have a good time pit stop, so hopefully it'll go just as smoothly this time around, but if not, it could certainly shake things up.
Yeah, definitely some of these guys are going to be hoping for a late caution. Maybe not just for pit stop, but just for getting back close together, because Toby Butler is definitely the best guy on these long stints. Matthew Rogers is also very strong there too. But you can just see Stephen Paulson and Chris Beck, they really struggle on these long runs, and they both just dropped off, lost position a couple laps ago, and already falling off from the guy ahead of them. So they're really struggling on these long runs.
Absolutely, and I'm looking at Stephen Paulson right now. Right behind him is Brian Barnes, who is currently somewhere around 5 laps down, still keeping up with the top dogs, though. You know, he's down due to his internet connection. It's not so much bad luck or accidents or anything like that. It's just that, you know, he's probably one of the fastest guys on the field, and his internet's gone out on him a few times, causing him a few positions. So unfortunately for Brian, just not his day. One of the many drivers who had some bad luck throughout the field, but he's making his way up through the field again. If a yellow were to come out, he would actually be able to get a wave around Royal Lucky Dog pretty easily at this point. Should anyone else get wrapped up in a pretty big disaster of a wreck. So Sam, right now everything's looking nice and calm. Do you have anything particular you want to talk about?
No, it's looking kind of calm. One thing we will have to pay attention to, I don't think we're going to go to the end of this race without a caution, and when the caution comes out, they are going to start to get much more aggressive, and then cautions breed cautions. Actually, there's something going on here. Mark Rediker's in the pits, and that's too early to make it to the end. He's going to have to come in one more time. I guess he must have had to come in for fuel, so Mark Rediker is now a lap down, I'm quite certain, and that means he's pretty much out of contention for challenging for the win unless we get a lot of cautions at the end of this race, which was my previous point, that cautions breed cautions, and a lot of these drivers have now used all their free repairs up, so it could get very entertaining in about 20 or 30 laps if or whenever the next caution comes out, because now that there's only 41 laps left to go, everyone's going to start thinking about positions if that opportunity arises.
Yeah, it looks like we're on Paulson now, looking at the battle that's coming now. Carl Burke not too far behind him. It looks like everybody's starting to kind of gain pace with one another. Just in front of them still Matthew Rogers about 8/10 ahead. Carl Burke has been gaining slowly in the last couple of laps, and then there's a huge drop-off. Tim Ryber in 6th place is a long ways back, 30 seconds from the leader. Right now, I think Paulson and Rogers, that battle for 3rd place with Carl Burke not too far behind, is definitely the closest battle on the track. You guys should probably call it now a battle between Paulson and Carl Burke, because Matthew Rogers is starting to slip away a little bit. Either way, this battle has been developing for a little while. We'll see how fast Carl Burke can dispose of Paulson, if that's the word we can use for that. Because Carl Burke, he's been kind of making up time the last couple of laps. He's been doing a very conservative and efficient job at that as well.
Which is pretty different from how he was running earlier, before we were seeing him having really good pace at the start and then overdriving the car and burning his tires very quickly and not being able to run on them. And now it's the opposite. He's managed to pick up some pace on as the stint's gone a little bit longer, and he's looking to gain position on Stephen Paulson and possibly Matthew Rogers as well for that 3rd place position overall.
Yeah, and I'm sitting here and watching. Matthew Rogers has been kind of defending, even though maybe not defending is the word I want to use. He's been kind of getting farther and farther away from the outside wall going into these corners, as if he's anticipating a pass, but maybe he's just trying to be careful not to do something stupid. We did kind of talk. Oh, and Carl Burke has a pretty heavy hit on that wall. I'm not sure if that damages the suspension on his car, because he got a pretty good run coming out of turn 2, but he did hit that wall between 1 and 2 pretty good. I would be very surprised to see if his car doesn't have any damage.
Yeah, well, the good news for him is he should be down pit road within the next 10 laps. We'll be seeing our green flag pit stops, our final set. Meanwhile, a bit of a development on the cars, running 1 lap down. Kevin Knodel just passed Matt Gelder for 7th place. The significance of that, and we're getting the word that Stephen Paulison is coming down pit road from 4th place. So here, I think this is too early to make it to the end, but we'll see. But yeah, if a caution were to come out right now, Kevin Knodel is in the lucky dog position.
Absolutely. And go ahead, Aaron.
Well, and I'm just saying, I think that it's right on the pit window. I think these cars can go about 40 laps around here, so that's probably just about when you want to pit for Stephen Paulson. So he's going to lead the guys in that pit window, and we should be seeing the rest of them coming in the next 5 to 10 laps.
Yeah, Matt Gelder down.
Chris Beck has fallen back to about 5 seconds since Toby Butler overtook him in turn 3 I guess it's not even really a couple of laps anymore. It's been almost like 10 or 11 laps now. Toby Butler just running away with the show once again, as we see who was that? Carl Burke was behind Matthew Rogers diving down pit road. So yeah, Toby Butler just taking control of the race. Not really a whole lot you could say other than that, other than Chris Beck was the only one to really give him a good run for his money throughout this race, and he fell off dramatically after his tires were spent. So, Sam, it looks like the pit window's starting to open up and people are coming down pit road soon now. Because, again, like I said, Carl Burke just went in.
Of course, Chris Beck would love a caution, because that means the race might end under a short run. And he certainly had the pace under the short run. So that could certainly be something that could help him challenge Toby. Really, it's just different ways, and I'm sure Toby's running them all through his head as well. Different ways that Toby Butler might not win this race. He just completed lap 123, he's on lap 124 now, so he's got 37 laps left to go. He is certainly in his pit window, according to Ayrton's math, as Matthew Rogers is in the pits, so yeah, all these drivers look like they're making their final stop. And really, it's only strategy or some weird chain of events that could cause Toby Butler to not win this race, but that's racing. It's not over till it's over. He may have a 10-second lead completing lap 159, and some people still won't put money on it.
Matthew Rogers having a very scary moment entering pit road. Just when he got up to that line, I guess he may have been over the speed limit just a little bit, because his car got all sorts of wiggly as he was coming in, and of course Gary Nichols not far behind, saw him sliding out a little bit, slammed on his brakes, and also had a little bit of a lockup indeed. So these guys got to be a little careful. These old tires don't have a lot of grip left in them, and slamming on the brakes to get your speed down for the limit is definitely not going to help you. So yeah, it's a scary moment again for Matthew Rogers. I'm looking now at Chris Beck to see exactly what his times are doing compared to Toby Butler. I don't think he's ever going to really get a chance to catch up with Toby now, because he is fallen a long way off the spectrum now, being 24 laps back. I'm guessing that means he's down pit road, and there we go, we see him on pit road. So I think Toby is probably the last driver to pit here in this run, Sam.
Yeah, and Brian Barnes just lost the connection again. Yeah, Chris Beck in the pits. Let's see what kind of time he does. He lost a lot of time on pit entry and pit exit earlier, about 5 seconds. His pit stop itself not that bad at 12.9. Toby Butler showed us earlier that he was pretty fast on pit entry and pit exit. Like I say, really one of the only cars still left the pit, and he is going through turns 1 and 2 now, so we'll wait and see if he comes down pit road this time around.
You know, it's hard to say, but I'm really hoping that he does, because Toby has been insulting these drivers away. He's been able to get lucky with these yellow flags and stretching his car out for the pit windows. And, you know, it's just been kind of uncanny just how well he's ran this race on old tires, new tires, you know, starting 5 positions back versus starting at the pole. Like, no matter where you put him, he shines. So, again, he stays out this lap, Sam, or excuse me, Ayrton, going around one more time. And, you know, he's got to be feeling pretty good about himself right now.
Yeah, he's been running a great race. But also to note that Matthew Rogers, when he did his pit stall, you mentioned that he had that scary pit entrance, but he also seemed to stop in the wrong pit stall and had to reaccelerate and go into another pit stall. So it seemed like he lost quite a bit of time there and actually lost 2 positions, dropping from 3rd place to 5th place, and that promoted Stephen Paulison up to 3rd place.
I think I just saw Chris Beck hit the wall, but I could be wrong. No, he definitely hit the wall coming out of turn 2, and that Stephen Paulson right behind him. That's what he wants to do with, let's see, we're on lap 126. So, you know, somewhere around 34 more laps to go. Definitely not what you want to do hitting that wall, Sam.
Meanwhile, Brian Barnes will not give up. He is actually in his pit stall again after losing the connection. He has reconnected for about the 3rd or 4th time today. He'll finish last place of the cars that are going to finish right now in 13th position. However, I believe the top 15 cars in this race score points, so every point counts, especially in a single class series such as this. Points pay extra. And I believe, I don't have charts with me here, but I believe Toby Butler is up there contending for the points as it is. So this is certainly going to give him a healthy points boost at round 7 of 12 during the Northwest Major season. Toby Butler is going to be a name contending for the points championship at the end of the year, provided he wins this race. And, you know, there's 32 laps left, so maybe he won't, but we'll see.
Toby Butler now coming off pit road. We see him just coming around turn 1 and 2. The Haviland of William Fletcher just shoots by on the outside there. You can see how close that pit entry and pit exit is to the actual racing service or surface at some points. Chris Beck, hard to say exactly where he is at this current camera angle, but he's got to be coming around somewhere about 10-15 seconds back, I would imagine, unless you know, they had a equally length pit stop. Toby Butler, though, when we come by this time, we'll see what the time delta is between the two cars. Everyone's starting to get their lap back as they cross the start-finish line, Aridin, and it looks like Matthew Rogers is in 5th place, a little ways back, a little more than I probably would have guessed from Carl Berg.
Yeah, Matthew Rogers did not have the best pit stop, but Toby Butler had an incredibly fast pit stop, and I'm going to check what happened, what the actual distance between him and Chris Beck are at the line. And it's about 8.5 seconds. Toby Butler's gained, I would say, about 4 seconds there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I'm trying to figure out if that's from sheer pace. I think before everyone started pitting, it was around 6 seconds. So that might have been him outrunning everybody and then filling up the fuel and taking fresh tires. I don't think he took a short stop there, Sam. So Toby Butler's just that fast today.
Yeah, no, he wouldn't have taken the short stop. He probably gained a lot of that time up on pit entry and pit exit. He's obviously an experienced oval car driver, and when you do enough practice laps at the track, you begin to attack pit entry and pit exit during your practice sessions, and you can really gain not just tenths of a second, but whole seconds when you get that right. If you just brake a little bit later or get a little bit less wheel spin getting out of pit road, it can really make a difference in the long run.
Yeah, and I'm actually just looking at Stephen Paulson now. He has stayed within about 1.5 seconds of Chris Beck for the last couple laps. I'm interested to see if he'll be able to pressure him and fight for that 2nd place position now that Chris Beck is pretty far for that 1st place fight.
Yeah, and I'm also watching Carl Berg. It's hard to say. I don't think he's making up enough time at the moment to be a threat to Stephen Paulson in 3rd place, but Carl Berg has been pretty fast today until he started banging on the wall after the first half of the race ended. So Carl Berg might also have a chance to get into a podium finish should he keep his car clean, or if something were to happen to Stephen Paulson. So Stephen right now is kind of in no man's land. He's a little ways back from Chris Beck, a little ways in front of Carl Berg. All he has to do to hold on if he wants to remain on that podium now.
Yeah, so Toby Butler leads Chris Beck, Stephen Paulson 3rd, Carl Berg 4th, Matthew Rogers in 5th, Mark Redeker 6th, rounds out the cars left on the lead lap. Tim Ribe in 7th, Kevin Canodal in 8th, Matt Gelder 9th, and Jared Morgan rounds out the top 10. Then it's Gary Nichols, William Fletcher and Brian Barnes. And as I was saying, top 15 cars I believe score points to Ray Fournier and Mike Willett, who, despite being out of a race, they should still be able to pick up some points here today, I believe.
Yeah, and points are definitely going to pay off as we are, you know, watching the end of this race here. We are currently on 132, so we have a little ways to go yet. It is a 160 lap race. Currently I'm watching Stephen Paulson as he just powers around these corners. The last time by he was about 1 second and a tenth or something around that from the next car, which is Chris Beck, who's been very fast today. And of course, there's probably a little more concern for Chris Beck because at the end of his last long stint, he was bleeding off time pretty bad. So hopefully Chris Beck can get it done today and keep that second place. Stephen Paulson able to keep that pace up and not lose a whole lot of time to Chris. And then Carl Burke has actually fallen off a little bit from the last time through. So Stephen Paulson right now is looking pretty safe on that podium spot. I don't think he's at any real risk of losing third place at the time being, Ayrton.
Yeah, I think the main thing to watch is to see that battle for second. I don't think either of these guys will lose third place unless a caution comes out or they get involved in an incident themselves. Talking about incidents, we actually haven't seen that many multi-car incidents. Most of the cautions that we've seen have been single-car spins or just slight contacts between cars. We haven't really seen any big wrecks.
Yeah, that's very impressive. I mean, even with the Ray Fournier crash where he flew across in front of Gary Nichols, that had the potential to turn into a 5 or 6 car pileup, and just the way everything kind of fell together, everyone was able to get by safely without getting anybody else involved. And actually, we've had a few wrecks today where people hit the wall pretty hard and no yellow actually was thrown, which has actually taken a lot of time off this race. We are currently over 2 hours and about 17 minutes, so you can just kind of get an appreciation for how long these guys have been going with the lack of incidents that we would normally see in an iRacing type of race. So that's actually a pretty good credit to this lead to keep the racing pretty clean and sportsmanlike as well, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, these are names that we regularly see in the Northwest Major Series. Now, granted, the thing about the Northwest Majors is they use different cars every single race. So these drivers really have to be quite talented to be able to adapt to different cars each time they go out, and they've just really nailed this one down pretty good.
Absolutely, and right now we're in kind of a weird stretch where there's not really any battles coming to play. We're going to take a short break real quick and see how things play out. We'll be back in a few minutes for more green flag racing. Hello and welcome back to the live streaming of the Brickyard 400, brought to you by the Northwest Majors and broadcasted by the GSRC Global Sim Racing channel. We want to remind our fans that you can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing channel and on Twitter at GSR channel. So if you have any questions or comments about the broadcast or want to stay in touch with the world of GSRC, you know where to find us. Now, Samuel, while we were out on our break, you kind of noticed that there were some cars pitting and there might be some storylines involved. Give us a little bit of insight on what you're thinking.
Yeah, it's just I've been surprised at the amount of cars that have been coming down pit road, and Matthew Rogers and Carl Burke have been coming into the pits. We see Matt Gelder down the pits right now. Now, if we take a closer look at his car is very beat up, and that's because about 5 laps ago he actually almost brought out a caution when he hit the wall in turn 1, skidded down into the apron in turn 2, but was able to save it. His car, though, definitely worse for wear, but was able to stop the caution from coming out. Gary Nichols also down in the pit road. He has damage to the right side of his car after getting into the wall. Here comes Stephen Paulison. He's into the pit. So yeah, I don't think these guys can all make it to the end. I don't think the order's going to shake up too much though, because the field is so spread out. But Stephen Paulison, who has led 10 laps today, I'm looking at the laps led chart right now. Toby Butler's led 112 out of 144 laps so far. He really has been dominating. So here comes Stephen Paulison into his pit box from 3rd place. We'll see if Carl Burke is in 4th, has already pit, so Steve Paulison should get out in 3rd. We'll wait and see if that's the case. There he goes. 4 tyres, left side's down. He's coming out of a pit box right now. Got to make sure he stays under the speed limit, goes by the green cones. He's going to rejoin the circuit. Where is Carl Burke? He's going down the front stretch right now. I don't think it's going to be that close. Stephen Paulison looks like he's good. And look at that, he actually just got lapped by the 2nd place car, Chris Beck. So we currently have 2 cars left on the lead lap, Brian.
Yeah, and it's been very interesting to see how these cars are doing. As we see Carl Berg coming right around that turn 2 as Stephen Paulison's leaving pit road. Carl Berg just slams into that wall almost as hard as one can do out of turn 2. That is an accelerating zone, so carrying a lot of speed and momentum through that corner. Carl Berg, man, he's been bouncing off that wall a lot today, and I'm impressed to see that his car is still running him in the top 4. Looks like Chris Beck's coming down pit road now, so we'll see what kind of pit stop he has. I think we have William Fletcher racing somebody right ahead of him. I believe that is Stephen Paulison, so everyone is kind of getting through the back marker traffic now. Let's see, only 2 cars, as you mentioned, are in the lead lap. Well, at least they were until Chris Beck went into the pits. I'm just rambling now, excuse me. Aaron, it's just, it's been a long race today. Has anything really stood out to you?
Well, I'm just interested at Tony Butler. I thought these guys might have been able to go a little bit longer, and he was also the last guy to pit the last pit cycle. So I'm wondering to see if he would have been able to make it to the end of this race. But with all these other guys pitting, it seems doubtful. But if he could, it might be tight, but he might have been able to.
And yeah, look at it. Go ahead, Sam.
Chris Beck coming out of the pits right now on that little infield apron there, and he should be able to rejoin the circuit in 2nd place. He is 7 seconds, now counting down to 6 seconds. It'll probably drop to 5 seconds on dynamic timing as he is down on speed in front of Stephen Paulison, who has 3 seconds over Carl Burke. Now obviously we'll have more cars on the lead lap once Toby Butler comes in for his final stop, which I believe he will, because believe it or not, Toby Butler is currently the only car left on the lead lap.
Drivers are obviously getting tired on the track. There's been a lot of radio chatter the last couple of laps between all sorts of drivers. Usually that happens towards the end of the race when people start to lose their focus and are trying to keep themselves awake. So, even the drivers on the track are starting to feel that fatigue kick in. We are currently on lap 147. I want to go ahead and do the top 10 results, but I'm worried someone else is going to pit and screw it all up. But needless, we'll go down the list. In 1st place, we have Toby Butler. In 2nd, we have Chris Beck. 3rd, we have Stephen Paulison. 4th, we have Carl Burke. 5th, Matthew Rogers. 6th, Tim Ryber. 7th, Mark Redeker. And 8th, we have Kevin Chernobyl. 9th, we have Matt Gelder. 10th, we have Jared Morgan. 11th, Gary Nichols. 12th, William Fletcher. 13th, Brian Barnes. And then the rest is all do not finish end of their day kite type drivers. That's Ray Fournier, Mike Willett, Jimmy Jones, Andrew Marenthal, and Brian Marsteller. Now, we're coming down to crunch time, Ayrton. Only 13 or 14 laps, depending where you are on the track and if you've crossed the line or not. You know, what exactly do you think is going to happen? Obviously, we're not close enough to really have a battle. And right now, because Chris Beck went in the pit road, everybody but Toby Butler has been removed from the lead lap. So it's been kind of like, who do you even really watch at this point?
I think there's definitely a reason to keep an eye on Chris Beck, Stephen Paulson, and Carl Burke. Those guys are close enough that if one of the other guys makes a mistake, there's a chance for a battle. So if Chris Beck or Stephen Paulson have a big hit against the wall, obviously that will cause some initial loss in speed, but also will cause them probably lose some speed in the next laps as well, because obviously hitting the wall makes you lose your momentum and rhythm and stuff like that. So I think we could see possibly a battle for the 2nd, 3rd, or 4th positions.
We're about to see a battle for 6th here. Tim Ryber, who was originally one of the only cars left on the lead lap, has been losing time to Mark Redeker, and this is going to be an easy disposal, it looks like. Mark Redeker in the red and black number 59 car, going much faster than Tim Ryber in the number 88 car. Tim Ryber currently has a position. Usually when he races, his wife Sheila Ryber is here too. Sheila Ryber, though, not in the part of this race for whatever reason. Tim getting on the radio. I'm wondering if he says, "I'll let you by down the straight here, Mark." Let's see what happens. If he's going to do it, he's not making it very clear what way he wants him to go. Tim Ryber on the inside. Is he going to back off early? Yes, he does. And Mark Redeker gets 6th position. Tim Ryber falls to 7th.
And as you're saying that, I was just looking at Kevin Kernodle. He was in the pits for some reason. I missed the cause of his anguish, but it looks like his car has a little bit of damage that may have been, getting fixed. As if we see that back end's all kind of crumpled up right there. Definitely a driver I thought was going to have a better day. He was looking very good all throughout the race and running about mid-pack, a little bit closer to the front. And then all of a sudden his luck ran out and he started having some issues in the second half of the race, somewhere around lap 120. So Kevin just, having a interesting kind of day, Ayrton. His luck's definitely run out though. It's now he is 2 laps down with almost 10 laps to go.
Yeah, and he's not going to be able to get back on the lead lap because the caution would probably end up with a short few laps to end the race. So with 2 laps down, not really much chance on that. Honestly, if a caution comes out within the next few laps, it could possibly end under yellow as well. Also to note that Toby Butler just made a pit stop, but looks like there's not really anyone close enough. Chris Beckett is very far back, and not really anyone to really contest his position.
Yeah, we're looking at Toby Butler getting around some back marker traffic. There's only 9 laps to go, so Toby Butler's basically in cruise control. He could actually slow down right now and actually and save his energy, because Chris Butler is 8.7 seconds behind, and there's, Chris Beck. I don't know why I got that name mixed up. He's 8.7 seconds behind, and then after that, Stephen Paulson, who's almost 14 seconds at this point back. So not a lot of threat for Toby Butler anymore in this race. Again, Chris Beck has about 5 seconds between himself and Stephen Paulson. That's probably the closest, or one of the closest battles on the track. Behind Stephen Paulson, Carl Burke's about 4 seconds. Like Ayrton said, they're not close enough to really battle, but if one of them were to crash, spin, hit the wall, something like that, that position will easily be taken over. So right now, not a lot we can really talk about, but we are approaching the end of the race, Sam. It's hard to even say what to expect, really, because these tires, all have been changed recently, yet we never know what's going to happen in oval racing, especially here in iRacing.
Yeah, 8 laps to go, so about 6 minutes separating Toby Butler from the end, so he could put on Bohemian Rhapsody and sing along, perhaps trying to get to the line here, because it's going to require a bit of concentration for him to not slip up. He has an 8.2 second lead over Chris Beck. Is this for real life? Is this just fantasy? Calling a landslide. He doesn't want to escape from reality though, because he is currently leading with 7 laps left to go as he crosses the yard of bricks, and in about 50.4 seconds he will do the same once again and be down the 6 laps left to go. Toby Butler is sniffing in, getting closer and closer to a victory here, and something that will certainly give him a giant points lead.
Absolutely, and no, we're just watching Toby Butler at this point going through. Chris Beck's on your screen right now as he is coming out of turn 2 with Kevin Kernoble right in front of him. He is just enjoying his ride now. He did all he could do, passed a ton of cars throughout the race, was able to keep his car up front for a little while, but Toby made pretty quick work of him once he caught back up. We've seen a few storylines throughout the race, not a lot that really was out of the ordinary for oval racing, but we've seen some good battles throughout. With only 5 laps to go now, Chris Beck working his way through back marker traffic and just trying to make it to the end so we can stand in second place on the podium. We are currently on board with him. Let's take a lap around the track and see what it's like here. Now that we've got the thinned out field, we're coming through turn 1 right now. We'll be back here in a few seconds. Welcome back to the GSR presentation of the Brickyard 400, brought to you by the Northwest Majors. Putting on a hell of a show today as Toby Butler has dominated throughout this whole race. We are on lap 158 of 160. Not a whole lot going on, but Sam, you said there was a battle possibly forming for 7th as we wait for the end of this race.
Yeah, and as quickly as it formed, it was done. Kevin Knodel basically got by Tim Reiber. Tim Reiber hasn't had the quickest car out there today, but he's played his strategy well. Unfortunately, this long green flag run means that cars that hadn't played their strategy well, but had fast cars, have been able to race their way around the circuit and unlap themselves from him, which has cost Tim Reiber. He's fallen from 6th to 8th, but still a very respectable finish by Ryber today. Meanwhile, Toby Butler, 1.5 laps left to go. He only has to do 6 more turns and he will be victorious here, providing he can keep it on the track and keep it the 8.8 seconds that he currently has over Chris Beck.
Absolutely, and he's coming out of turn 4 right now, and there's no stopping this guy. Toby Butler, he did it on old tires, he did it on new tires. He even started a yellow flag in fifth position, was able to overcome all the cars in front of him despite there being a good battle for the lead. He is able to persevere, got lucky when it really counted, and now he's running out the big picture long stints. I'm going to start calling this guy Mr. Big Stuff because, man, he has a big game, and we are coming around the final time here out of turn 2, Sam.
Yep. I mean, I really don't know what to say. I think we've pretty much hit every nail on the head here. He was fastest in practice, he was fastest in qualifying, he's absolutely dominated this race. Jimmy John's a very appropriate sponsor on that number 08 car. 1 turn left to go. As long as he doesn't do a J.R. Hildebrand impersonation, he will win here today, Brian.
Absolutely, and I don't think he's going to do a JR because he is coming down middle of the track. You can see the stands filled with cars and fans standing up as the cars come around turn 1 for the final time as they're going to head around, and that is our checker flag. So Toby Butler is our winner. Wow, man, that was a long race, something like 2 hours and 30 minutes. It's time to take a quick break. We'll come back with your official results and maybe a few driver interviews if anybody still has enough energy to actually talk. But at this point, we'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to the Brickyard 400, brought to you by the Northwest Majors and presented by the Global Sim Racing channel. We just watched a very intense, exciting match, and it looks like one driver stood out on top, and to tell us who that was, we'll go to Aaron and Ellis to run down their grid for the final results of the night.
Thanks, Brian. Winning the race was Toby Butler. After starting on pole, he was dominated the race, really 129 laps led. Second place was Chris Beck, and third place was Stephen Paulison. In fourth place was Carl Burke. In fifth place was Matthew Rogers. Then Mark Redeker in sixth place, Kevin Kernodle in seventh, Tim Ryber in eighth, Matt Gelder in ninth, and Jared Morgan to top out the top 10.
Then we had Gary Nichols in 11th, William Fletcher in 12th, Brian Barnes was able to salvage a 13th despite losing the connection about 4 times, Ray Fournier 14th, league organiser Mike Willett got the final point in 15th, Jimmy Jones, first car outside of the points, a disappointing 16th, Andrew Marintho 17th, Brian Mastella 18th, and then 3 DNS cars, Vernon Margheim, Scott Hutchinson and Randy Webster. Brian.
Well, you know, normally this is the point of the night when we have interviews, but we're going to wrap up the broadcast early tonight. We would like to thank the Northwest Majors for allowing us to be part of the excitement tonight. We would also like to thank the makers of various software and hardware that help make this stream possible. iRacing.com, XSplit, Twitch TV, Audio Technica, Behringer, and Aver Media. Thanks to the team today, Giancarlo, Airden, and Sam. Of course, always thanks to Dougie Beard for providing us with camera sets to make us look good. He is probably the reason we are as good as we are today. It's always fun to work with you guys, and I look forward to it every week. If you'd like to find out more about the GSRC, you can find it at www.globalsimracingchannel.com, along with archived race and race highlights. We are also on Twitter at GSR Channel and Facebook at facebook.com/Global Sim Racing Channel. A special thank you goes to Eric Ekholm, who provides us with much of our music. You can find it not only here in the GSRC, but in TV commercials, movie trailers, iTunes, and Spotify. If you like the music, tell Eric where you heard it at Eric Ekholm. The next Northwest Majors event is on July 27th. That's a 2.4 hours of Spa at Spa-Francorchamps. Still to come later this month on July 25th, the iSuperspeedway.com returns with round 4 at Talladega. Those are driving the Gen 6 cars. It's going to be a fun one, of course. Always looking forward to that series. Also, coming up on July 27th, we have the Gathering of Tweakers. That's a one-off race, and they're going to be at Sonoma. For more information, you can find out what they're doing over at GlobalSimRacingChannel.com. Also on July 27th, we have the Week 13 Spec Racer Ford Big Grid at Suzuka. That's an event that everyone looks forward to, of course. Always a good race. Do not miss it. Well, that's all we have on the schedule board for now. So until next time, race clean, race hard, and I'll see you on the track.